Peng Chao, you must work hard with Boss Tang in the future. I firmly believe that he can give you a brilliant future. Yang Peng Chao nodded heavily and said with a serious expression, I will. At the entrance of Paradise Villa, dressed in youthful and beautiful attire, Emo Xiaohan walked through the door with a handbag. However, her eyes kept glancing at Jin Shi, who was leading the way in front of her, and her heart was pounding. A handsome man. An absolute handsome man. Although he wasn't handsome, he was definitely cold and cool. She had long since passed the age where it was easy to be shy like a little girl. She had even seen a lot of handsome men and women, but she found that the handsome men and women she had seen in the past were all inferior to the security guard in front of her. If this young lady's jade rooster is real, I can get $100 million. I must make this cool uncle my mistress. I won't do anything in the future and just watch this cool uncle do the laundry and cook for me every day. After fantasizing for a while, Emo Xiaohan unconsciously followed Jin Shi into a VIP lounge that was hundreds of square meters in size. Despite having been to many high-end places, she was still shocked by the decorations inside. Cool uncle, what's your name? My name has nothing to do with you, said Jin Shi indifferently. Just wait here for a while. I've notified my boss and he'll come to see you soon. Having said that, he turned around and walked toward the VIP lounge's door. Emo Xiaohan waved her hand and opened her mouth, but she didn't know what to say. Just as Jin Shi was about to disappear at the door, she plucked up her courage and shouted, Cool uncle, if being a security guard is tiring, wait for me to get $100 million. I'll support you in the future. Jin Shi, who just stepped out of the door, staggered and nearly fell to the ground. He was at a loss whether he had to laugh or cry as he turned to glare at Emo Xiaohan and then quickly left. A few minutes later, Tan Xiu appeared in the VIP lounge and looked at the youthful and beautiful Emo Xiaohan. He stepped forward and said with a smile, Hello, I'm Tan Xiu. I'm also the one looking for the zodiac jade carvings. May I know how to address you, miss? My surname is Emo, said Emo Xiaohan. Strange, why do I find you a bit familiar? And your name? Tan Xiu? It seems that there's a very kind divine doctor with the same name. Her voice came to an abrupt halt. Emo Xiaohan's bright eyes instantly stared with a shocked expression as she exclaimed, I remember. You're that young divine doctor, Tan Xiu. That's right, it's me, said Tan Xiu with a smile. You're the one who wants to spend $100 million to buy the zodiac jade carvings? Heavens! How can you be so rich? No, that's not right. You're not only going to spend $100 million. You still need 10 zodiac jade carvings. Doesn't that mean you'll have to spend $1 billion? Don't let your imagination run wild. Tan Xiu said with a smile, we already know each other, so let's talk about the deal. You said you have a jade rooster. Where is it? Emo Xiaohan gulped down and asked with a bewildered expression, if I really have a jade rooster, will you really give me $100 million? Yes, I will. Tan Xiu firmly replied. Emo Xiaohan nodded with satisfaction. She then took out a red and lifelike jade rooster from her carry-on bag and handed it to Tan Xiu, saying, This is it. After receiving it and appraising it, Tan Xiu suppressed his joy and nodded. That's right. This is the jade rooster from the set of zodiac jade carvings. Miss Emo, this jade rooster belongs to me from now on. Tell me your bank account number and I'll send someone to transfer the money to your account right away. Alright. Emo Xiaohan suppressed her excitement and immediately nodded to tell Tan Xiu her bank account number. At this moment, Jin Shi, who had just left not long ago, returned and quickly came to Tan Xiu's front and reported, Boss, another guest who claims to have a zodiac jade carving has arrived. Our men are bringing him here. Tan Xiu's eyes lit up and he quickly said, Did he say which zodiac jade carving he brought? I asked. I heard it's a jade rabbit, said Jin Shi. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction. He then turned to look at Emo Xiaohan and said, Miss Emo, you must have come to Shanghai from another place, right? If you're willing, you can rest in Paradise Manor. During your stay, all expenses will be waived. Divine Dr. Tang, can you let me have a look at the jade rabbit? Asked Emo Xiaohan quickly. Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, You can have a look. But since you want to see the jade rabbit, you must let the other party know that you're the one who brought the jade rooster. After all, we'll help you keep it a secret if you don't want to disclose your identity. No problem. I agree. Mo Xiaohan nodded happily. Shortly after, Zhang Muiyuan followed the security guards. When he saw Tan Xiu, he recognized Tan Xiu's identity at first glance and greeted Tan Xiu with a bit of excitement and apprehension. Mr. Zhang, this is the previous owner of the Jade Rooster, said Tan Xiu with a smile. If you don't mind, take out the Jade Rabbit now. Zhang Muiyuan nodded to Mo Xiaohan and immediately took out the Jade Rabbit and handed it to Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu judged that the Jade Rabbit was also one of the 12 zodiac jade carvings. Is this what you need, Boss Tang? That's right. Tan Xiu nodded. Then when will you? Asked Zhang Muiyuan excitedly. Tan Xiu looked at his hesitant expression and smilingly said, I understand what you mean. Give me your bank account number and I'll immediately send someone to transfer the money to your account. We've already discussed this transaction with the bank, so the money will be in your account within 2 hours once we transfer the money. Great, great! Exclaimed Zhang Muiyuan ecstatically. You can rest assured about the confidentiality issue, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Also, since the two of you have come from afar, you can rest at our Paradise Manor first. All expenses are free of charge. A hesitant look appeared on Zhang Muiyuan's face as he said, Boss Tang, can I say that I don't need your help to keep it a secret? You don't need to keep it a secret? Tan Xiu was surprised. Of course. We can even release the news to the reporters and announce your real situation. Thank you so much, said Zhang Muiyuan with all seriousness. I want the whole country to know that I'm the former owner of the Jade Rabbit and I sold it for $100 million. No problem. Tang Xiu readily agreed and smilingly asked, Mr. Zhang, there are very few people who would deliberately publicize their windfall after making a fortune. Can you tell me why you're different from others? To tell you the truth, I just want to let those who refuse me, look down on me and even ridicule me know that I, Zhang Muiyuan, am not at a dead end. Zhang Muiyuan, am not at a dead end. Before I came to Shanghai this time, my company's business was in trouble and there was a serious problem with the capital chain. I borrowed money from a lot of friends who I thought I had a good relationship with, but everyone avoided me as if I was a plague. Many of their words were very unpleasant to hear. After a while, Tan Xiu finally figured it out and secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, Zhang Muiyuan's company was in trouble and his friends didn't lend him money. Otherwise, it was hard to say whether he would come to Shanghai and sell the Jade Rabbit to him. Chapter 857. In the evening, the reporters squatting outside the Paradise Manor listlessly glanced at the imposing gate. The peddlers pushing the tricycles were shouting their dishes. Even if they were starving, they didn't have much desire to eat. Not having any news was an endless torment for media people like them. Dear friends from the media, I've just received a notice to invite you to the eastern suburb square of the manor. The banquet has been prepared for you, and there's something important to inform you. Jean Sher strode out of the manor's gate and looked around at the thousands of media people. Something important? Could it be that there's news? Is the Grand Fortune Jewelry going to break the news? They even prepared a banquet? I never thought I'd be able to eat Paradise Manor's food one day. If it's big news, I'll eat my fill today. Hurry up. We must grab a good seat. The thousands of reporters were excited. They cheered up and rushed into the Paradise Manor's gate under the order of dozens of Paradise Manor's security guards. At the eastern suburb square, hundreds of round tables filled the place as waitresses with beautiful faces and extraordinary temperament came with fragrant dishes and drinks. The strong aroma of the dishes aroused the appetite of all the reporters. However, as the reporters took their seats, no one moved their chopsticks. All kinds of cameras and cannons began to be fixed and calibrated, all aimed at the temporary half-meter-high platform at the northernmost end. Jean Sher stepped on the platform without a microphone in his hand, but his voice was transmitted to the ears of every reporter. Ladies and gentlemen, our boss said that you must eat and drink before you listen to the news. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't have the mood to finish your meal after the big news is announced. Also, our boss also said that waste is shameful, So please cherish every bit of food. Thank you. After saying that, Jean sure strode away from the platform. The reporters were dumbfounded. This was the first time they encountered a situation where they were invited to dinner first and then announced important news. However, such an arrangement warmed their hearts. It was obvious that the Grand Fortune Jewelry's boss knew their current situation very well. He knew that the first thing they would do after getting the news was to write a press release and submit the filming materials, striving to report the news as soon as possible. Colleagues, hurry up and eat. Eat and drink before you listen to the news. A burly reporter at a table roared, then grabbed his chopsticks and wolfed down the food. Under his lead, the tens of millions of reporters ate the meat and drank the tea. However, no one touched the wine on the table. Half an hour later, Hao Lei, followed by 3 waiters carrying trays, came down to the stage. She was wearing a floral skirt with her long, flowing hair, looking particularly dignified and beautiful. She glanced at the crowd with a microphone in her hand and smilingly said, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to everyone's presence. I'm Hao Lei, the general manager of Grand Fortune Jewelry. Now I'd like to announce 2 things. The first is that our Grand Fortune Jewelry has welcomed 3 waves of distinguished guests, and the zodiac carvings brought by these 3 waves of distinguished guests are exactly the jade carvings that we're looking for." 3 waves? All the reporters were excited. One of the reporters at the table closest to Hao Lei asked loudly, "President Hao, can you tell us the identities of those VIPs? And what kind of zodiac jade carvings did they send?" Hao Lei smiled and said, "Revealing the identity of the honored guest is the second matter. Now, I will show you the zodiac jade carvings they sent over." After saying that, she gestured to the 3 waiters behind her, and they immediately lifted the yellow silk cloth covering the trays. In a flash, all the cameras were aimed at the 3 red and lifelike zodiac jade carvings on the trays. The 3 zodiac jade carvings are the jade monkey, jade rooster, and jade rabbit, said Hao Lei with a smile. Together with the jade dragon and jade tiger in our hands, we now have a complete set of 5 zodiac jade carvings. I hope all the reporters and friends can help us advertise and find the remaining 7 zodiac jade carvings. The flashes kept flashing, and the focus kept hovering on the 3 jade carvings. Hao Lei continued, "The second thing I want to announce is that the VIPs of the jade monkey and jade rooster don't want their identities to be exposed, so we can't tell you who they are. However, $100 million has been paid to them. As for the VIPs who brought the jade rabbit, he's willing to be interviewed by everyone." "That's great. Where is he? It's better to have someone willing to be interviewed than no one. Where is he? Who is he?" Behind the platform, accompanied by 4 security guards, Zhang Muyuan came to the stage. He stood in front of Hao Lei and hurriedly nodded to salute her. "Let me introduce him to everyone. This is Boss Zhang Muyuan from Fukang Province," said Hao Lei with a smile. "He's also the big boss of Fukang's Yulong Construction Materials. Now, let us invite Boss Zhang to speak." Zhang Muyuan took the microphone and his deep eyes swept the audience below. After a few seconds of silence, a forced smile appeared on his face as he said, "In fact, many people think that I'm a big boss with hundreds of millions of assets, so I should be very rich. That's right, I was indeed very rich a few months ago. At the very least, I didn't have to worry about food and drink. I lived in a mansion, drove a luxury car, and had countless rich friends. However, it's hard to do business these days, and it's even harder to be a boss. Due to some special unforeseen events, the business of my Yulong Construction Materials Group has shrunk significantly, and there's even a cash flow problem. The jade rabbit is one of my favorite collectibles. I even fantasized about keeping it as my Zhang family's heirloom and passing it on to my descendants. However, I had no choice but to take it out when the company was in trouble. I'll bring it to Shanghai in the Paradise Manor. Just 2 hours ago, more than 690 million yuan was transferred to my account, and I've also transferred 190 million yuan to my company's public account. It can be said that Jade Rabbit saved my company, and it was Jade Rabbit who allowed my assets to skyrocket. Although I have regrets in my heart, I'm also satisfied. This satisfaction comes not only from the income of money, but also from the fact that I know that there's not only one kind of zodiac jade carving in this world, but also 11 other kinds. I brought the jade rabbit with me in the hope that Grand Fortune Jewelry can find 12 zodiac jade carvings as soon as possible. Zhang Muyuan's speech was neither fast nor slow, but at this time, the reporters below were ignited. A collectible jade rabbit saved a company with a market value of hundreds of millions of yuan, preventing a tycoon from going bankrupt, and having many friends but no one to help him, all kinds of key points, all kinds of highlights. Each and every one of the reporters' faces turned red, and blue veins danced on their foreheads. Late at night, at the Shanghai railway station, Qin Jianxi dragged his tired body out. He held a folding stool in his hand and carried a worn-out black leather bag on his shoulder, followed by his cousin, Qin Jiawei. "Brother, we've arrived in Shanghai, but where can we find a buyer?" Qin Jiawei's face was dark, his body was strong, and his voice was gruff. Qin Jianxi hesitated and said, "The newspaper said that it's the Paradise Manor. How do we know where it is? How about we call the phone number left in the newspaper and ask about the situation?" Qin Jiawei was a bit uneasy as he had just arrived in a bustling metropolis, so he hurriedly nodded and said. Qin Jianxi grabbed his old Nokia mobile phone that he had used for 5 or 6 years and dialed the phone number in the newspaper. It didn't take long for the call to be connected. "Hello, I'm Hao Lei. May I ask who you are?" Hello. We're here to sell the jade ox. The newspaper said that you want to buy it. Is it true?" Qin Jianxi controlled his emotions and said with a face full of expectation. Hao Lei said, "Jade ox? May I ask where you are?" "I'm Hao Lei, the general manager of Grand Fortune Jewelry. We really want to buy the zodiac jade carvings. We just arrived in Shanghai and just got out of the train station," said Qin Jianxi. "About that, this is our first time coming to Shanghai and we're not familiar with this place, so we don't know where to go. Please tell me which train station it is. I'll immediately send someone." "No, I'll personally pick you up," said Hao Lei. "Which train station? Isn't it Shanghai train station?" asked Qin Jianxi with a puzzled expression. Hao Lei was at a loss whether she had to cry or laugh. "There are several train stations in Shanghai." 40 minutes later, Hao Lei, along with Jin Shi and the others, hurried to the Shanghai train station. After calling them, they finally found Qin Jianxi and Qin Jiawei, who were sitting on a stool and smoking in the square. "May I ask which one of you is Mr. Qin Jianxi, Qin Jianxi?" Qin Jianxi hurriedly stood up and looked at the dignified and elegant Hao Lei, as well as the burly and imposing Jin Shi's group. He stammered and said, "I'm Qin Jianya. You're that Hao Lei, Manager Hao?" Hao Lei stretched out her hand and smilingly said, "That's right. I'm Hao Lei, the general manager of Grand Fortune Jewelry. Welcome to Shanghai. Mr. Qin, the car is in the parking lot. Please come with me." Oh, all right." Qin Jianxi blushed and shook hands with Hao Lei. He subconsciously rubbed his hands on his clothes and pulled Qin Jiawei to follow Hao Lei's group to the parking lot. They returned to Paradise Manor. Hao Lei took the two to the VIP lounge and ordered the waiter to prepare the meal. Then she smilingly asked, "You two, you said you brought a jade ox. Please take it out. I need to appraise it. If it's a real jade ox, we're willing to buy it for $100 million. $100 million. Qin Jianxi and Qin Jiawei were instantly excited. After all, such a huge number was simply an astronomical figure for them. Soon after, Qin Jianxi took the jade ox out of his worn-out black leather bag and handed it to Hao Lei, saying, "This is it. It's the Qin family's heirloom. I've been begging my father for a long time, and he finally gave it to me. Manager Hao, you can't deceive us. My son is still waiting for the money to get a wife. My daughter is still waiting for the money to pay for her tuition. If you don't want to pay so much money, you can pay less." Chapter 858. Hao Lei looked at the simple and honest Qin Jianxi, who was a bit perturbed, and comforted him. "Don't worry, Mr. Qin. If the jade bull you brought is one of the zodiac jade carvings we're looking for, we'll pay you $100 million. All right. We'll listen to you." Qin Jianxi calmed down a bit and walked down under Hao Lei's call. However, just as his buttocks sat on the sofa, he bounced up and said with a bit of panic, Sorry. My clothes are too dirty. I don't want to dirty your sofa. I'll make a stool. After saying that, he walked a few steps to the sofa, opened the stool and directly sat on it. Hao Lei was at a loss whether to cry or laugh as she looked at Chen Jianxi. She was about to speak when she suddenly noticed Tan Xiu's figure outside the door. She immediately went to greet him and said, "This is the Jade Bull, boss." Tan Xiu took it and shot a deep look at Chen Jianxi. Then he carefully observed the Jade Bull. After his inspection, he found that this Jade Bull was indeed one of the 12 zodiac jade carvings. It was absolutely genuine. "Take it back, Hao Lei." After handing the Jade Bull to Hao Lei, Tan Xiu strode to Chen Jianxi and said, "If my guess is correct, you're Uncle Chen Jianxi, right? I'm Tan Xiu, the buyer of this zodiac jade carving. I just appraised it, and the Jade Bull you brought is indeed what I need. However, it's already early in the morning now, and I'm afraid the bank transfer will have to be done during the day." "I know you. You're that amazing divine doctor," asked Chen Jianxi excitedly. You're really willing to buy it?" "I'll buy it." "It's a done deal," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Chen Jianxi excitedly rubbed his hands and said, Divine Dr. Tang, $100 million is way too much. Just give us whatever you want. It won't be a problem as long as my son can buy a house and marry a wife, and my daughter can finish college." "Uncle Chen, Tan Xiu, am a man of his word." Tan Xiu shook his head. "The $100 million I've promised is absolutely not less than a penny. How about this? Hand over the jade ox to me first. I'll get someone to transfer 690 million yuan to your account now. As for the rest, I'll give you cash. I don't have an account. I only have a passbook." Chen Jianxi scratched his head and said worriedly. At the side, Chen Jiawei pulled Chen Jianxi and whispered, "Brother Jianxi, the account is in the passbook." Tan Xiu smiled slightly. After learning that the two of them had a bumpy journey today, they were a bit hungry, so he accompanied them to eat and drink some wine. After that, he personally sent the two of them to the luxurious VIP room. Before they left, Tan Xiu even asked someone to measure their figures and prepared 2 sets of clothes for each of them according to their sizes. In the luxurious VIP room, Chen Jiawei stepped on the soft carpet and raised his head to look at the soft crystal lamp. After sighing a few times, he ran to the bedroom and the bathroom to check again and finally came to the small balcony. A few minutes later, he was dazzled and returned to the living room. He looked at the silent Jianxi Chen sitting on the sofa and excitedly said, "Brother Jianxi, I've made the right choice to follow you this time." It was luxurious and imposing, just like heaven in his dreams. "I never thought that I would be able to live in such a luxurious house for the rest of my life." Chen Jianxi frowned and didn't speak, but a worried look flashed in his eyes. Chen Jiawei finally noticed Chen Jianxi's abnormality and asked with a confused expression, "What happened to you, Brother Jianxi? Do you think Divine Dr. Tang will renege on his debt after taking the jade ox away?" Chen Jianxi hesitated. Ugh! The expression on Chen Jiawei's face froze. After thinking hard for a long time, he said with a bit of panic, "That's right. Why did he take the jade ox away? If he's a swindler, we'll lose everything. Come on, let's go find him now." Chen Jianxi pulled Chen Jiawei and hesitantly said, "Don't go find him first. Let's think about it carefully. I don't think Divine Dr. Tang will deceive us." "Who is he?" "He's the famous young Divine Doctor. His deeds have been reported by many TV stations all over the country. But I'm still a bit worried. How about we give him some money first?" Chen Jiawei nodded. "At least we won't have to worry about money later." "That makes sense." Chen Jianxi immediately nodded in agreement. 10 minutes later, when the duo left the VIP suite and looked for Tang Xiu everywhere, Hao Lei appeared in front of them. She handed a black bag to them and smilingly said, "This is 500,000 renminbi in cash. We'll transfer the whole amount to your account, and you'll be paid with cash for the remaining 2 digits. The money will be transferred to your account by noon tomorrow at the latest." 500,000? Chen Jianxi couldn't help but shiver. He quickly unzipped the black leather bag and looked at the half-filled bag full of 100 yuan bills inside. His body trembled. He had never seen so much money in his entire life. But now this money was all his? Suddenly, he seemed to recall something as he looked at Chen Jiawei and said, "We were wrong. Divine Dr. Tang is just like the rumor said. He's a good man, a great philanthropist. He didn't lie to us. He's a man of his word. The two of us were worried before. It's really, really wrong." Looking at the money, Qin Jiaowei's eyes nearly shone. He nodded repeatedly and said, "Yes, yes, yes. You're right, Brother Jint. Divine Dr. Tang really has integrity. He's really a good man." Hao Lei was at a loss whether she had to cry or laugh as she looked at the two men. She then said with a smile, "To be honest, our boss's integrity is really good. I can see that he's very cordial when he sees you. He treats you better than the other VIPs who came to sell the jade carvings. Now, I can understand our boss because he can see the simple and honest nature in you. You two go back and rest first. You can choose to play in Shanghai for a few days or go home after the money is transferred to your account. Our boss told us that all your expenses here will be reimbursed by us." There were several Western-style buildings in the depths of the woods north of Paradise Manor. One of them was recently built and had just been renovated. As the big boss, Ouyang Lulu officially moved in a few days ago. Under the moonlight, Ouyang Lulu slept soundly. Her slight snoring was like the wind blowing outside the window, highlighting the tranquility of the house under the shadow of the dancing leaves. There were 6 jade carvings: jade ox, jade tiger, jade dragon, jade rabbit, jade monkey, and jade rooster. They were neatly placed on the table beside the bed, exuding a hazy luster under the moonlight. Sitting in front of the table, Tan Xiu's eyes were particularly bright as they lingered on each of the zodiac jade carvings. He had made up his mind. If he could find all 12 jade carvings, he would be able to unlock some kind of mysterious profundity. It could even make his cultivation advance by leaps and bounds in a short time, and he wouldn't be too far away from ascending to the immortal world. The final exam is over. I'll immediately set off to Longquan Bay in Kanas to open that immortal trove. No matter what opportunity one get there, I must go into seclusion to comprehend the heavenly Tao trajectory inside these 6 jade carvings. No matter how difficult it is, I must comprehend the heavenly Tao of this world. Tan Xiu clenched his fists and an unprecedented firmness flashed in his eyes. He wanted to ascend to the immortal world and take revenge. He also wanted to look down upon the immortal world and overlook the myriad of living beings there. However, what he wanted the most was the vast immortal path and the company of his loved ones, especially his mother who had no cultivation at all. If he left, he must find a way to take her with him. Previously, although he was cultivating, there was still a deep struggle in his heart, because he had no other way to successfully bring his mother who had no cultivation to the immortal world. But now, because of the appearance of the zodiac carvings, he saw the light. The heavenly art of cosmic genesis was once the supreme cultivation's sacred book of the demon world. Even the top demon kings and demon sovereigns of the demon world dreamed of getting it. He cultivated this sacred book of the demon path. In the future, he believed that he would become stronger than before, but the drawback was that even if he broke the shackles of this world, he could only leave by himself and couldn't bring his loved ones with him. But now, even if he cultivated the demon path cultivation method, as long as he could comprehend the heavenly Tao of this world, he could use it for himself. At that time, not to mention that he could easily leave and set foot on the immortal world, he could also bring all his loved ones and all the subordinates that he had trained. Even if he wanted to, it would not be a problem to bring the entire human race on Earth to the immortal world. 2 years, if I can't find the remaining 6 jade carvings within 2 years, then even if Yen and Ji Chi may have to search every corner of the Earth, I must find the remaining jade carvings, as long as they are still on Earth. The next day, Hao Lei followed Tan Xiu's instructions and announced to the public that the 4th jade carving had been found, which was the jade ox of the 12 zodiac carvings. However, because the person who sold the jade ox was unwilling to reveal his identity, the Grand Fortune Jewelry needed to keep it a secret for him. This news, once again, it grew wings. Through the reporters' scramble to report it and countless media's wantonly propaganda, it was once again known to the people of the whole country. Even because of the power of the media, the news that the Grand Fortune Jewelry wanted to buy the zodiac jade carvings with hundreds of millions of US dollars had begun to spread abroad and to various countries. Moreover, the matter was still fermenting. Perhaps it would not take long for it to cause a sensation all over the world. A few days later, Tan Xiu came out of the examination room comfortably. All the subjects had been taken. He was confident that not only could he pass the passing standard, but he could also achieve excellent results. Honk honk. The sound of a car's horn rang from outside the examination building, attracting Tan Xiu's attention. "Handsome, do you want me to give you a ride?" A soft voice, with a bit of a woman's unique sweetness, came from dozens of meters away. Tan Xiu looked over and suddenly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In front of the luxurious supercar worth millions of US dollars, Mu Weining was wearing a very beautiful light blue floral skirt, with her flowing black hair and pink sunglasses. Leaning against the front of the car, she looked at Tan Xiu with a smile. That figure, that appearance, it was like a goddess coming out of a painting. Chapter 859. Tan Xiu's eyes moved away from Mu Weining and looked around. What made him at a loss whether to cry or laugh was that there were many boys and girls around. Even the examinees coming out of the examination building were dazzled by Mu Weining's beauty. "Do you have to be so dazzling, Belle?" Tan Xiu walked forward with a wry smile and shook his head with a sigh. Mu Weining straightened her body and half opened her arms. Her long skirt fluttered and her fragrance filled the air. She then asked with heartfelt laughter, "Don't tell me your girlfriend is dazzling? Isn't that giving you face?" Tan Xiu was attracted by Mu Weining's smile at this moment. Despite his firm mind and being very familiar with Mu Weining, he still felt a strong sense of amazement. After coming back to his senses, he grabbed Mu Weining's smooth wrist and quickly pulled her to the driver's door. He opened the door and pushed her inside. After closing the door, he went to the front seat and sat down, saying, "Let's go." "Give me a reason," said Mu Weining with a smile. Tan Xiu pointed at what she was referring to and grunted, "I'm the only one who can appreciate the most beautiful side of my girlfriend. Other men will feel uncomfortable seeing me. Is this reason good enough?" Mu Weining giggled again and again. Her bright eyes were so bright that they seemed to be able to drip water. As the car started, she smilingly asked, "Where are we going?" Tan Xiu thought for a while and said, "Since you're dressed up so beautifully today, I'll treat you to a feast. I remember there's a nearby alley selling barbecue skewers. Let's use the sky as our blanket and the ground as our table to enjoy a feast." Mu Weining couldn't help but laugh. She rolled her eyes at Tan Xiu with an infinitely charming expression and then said with a smile, "To celebrate the end of your freshman semester, I'll be the one to arrange it today. I'll treat you to a feast. Let's go to Xiulinhua Mansion." "Seeing that you're so beautiful and sincere, then let's go to Xiulinhua Mansion," Tan Xiu smilingly said. The car and the beauty gradually went away. Countless sorrowful wails came from the onlookers. Some boys even sang Valentine's Day without a lover, loudly to vent the sadness in their hearts. Embroidered Forest Mansion. It was a famous celebrity kitchen in Shanghai. The guests who were able to enjoy the delicacies here were all rich and respectable people. This place was publicly recognized as the most delicious food in Shanghai, but it was also the most expensive place to squander money. "Weining, you seem to be very familiar with this place?" Tan Xiu asked in surprise as he followed Mu Weining into the embroidered forest Hua Mansion. He watched as she entered the room labeled Emperor's Hall with familiarity. "I've been here twice." Mu Weining chuckled. Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Rumor has it that the food here is the most expensive place in Shanghai. I didn't expect you to be willing to come here. I've been here twice, but I haven't eaten anything here." Mu Weining shook her head. "The first time was to look for my father, and that was a few years ago. The second time was when I came here with my best friend. In the end, my best friend happened to see her boyfriend meeting another woman here." I think your best friend's boyfriend must be very miserable," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "Why do you say that?" Mu Weining was surprised. "Is your best friend's temper very good?" Tan Xiu smiled. "Not very good. She's just a punching bag." Mu Weining forced a smile. "Do you know why I'm still willing to follow you until now, Tan Xiu? Even if I'm not the only woman you have." "Ugh," Tan Xiao secretly regretted his big mouth, but he could only bite the bullet and ask, why? A trace of hidden bitterness could be seen in Mu Wenying's eyes as she said, love for you is the most important. This kind of feeling can't be replaced by other things or things. Then there's the issue of the environment. As a matter of fact, women's status has been getting higher and higher since the reform and opening up. But the fact is that everyone still has the blood of men being superior to women flowing in their veins, including me. There's a saying that women also occupy half of the sky, but this statement can't be compared to men are the pillars of the family. Women are weak inside and want to find someone to rely on. This is the crux of the problem. As a matter of fact, I know how much the environment can affect women. For example, Ouyang Lulu and the famous Kang Xia. The circle we are in contact with can't be completely confined by the monogamy system. In Hong Kong, Macau, and even Taiwan, there are many powerful people who have more than one wife. Another example is my dad. He does love my mom deeply, but his love for beauties is ingrained in his veins, causing him to have other women besides my mom. The Ouyang family's patriarch is also Ouyang Lulu's father. He also has more than one woman. Even if Ouyang Lulu's mother is very powerful and I've heard of her name a long time ago, she still can't make Ouyang Lulu's father keep his chastity for her. The bitterness in Mu Wenying's mouth turned thicker as she spoke up to there. Tan Xiao took a deep breath as he shook his head and said, if a man loves a woman to the core and can even give up everything for her, he will never fall in love with another woman. Is that so? Mu Wenying couldn't help but smile helplessly. Yes, I've seen such a person before, said Tan Xiao in a deep voice. Mu Wenying stared blankly and asked in surprise, you've seen him before? Tan Xiao fell into silence. The person he was talking about was himself, even if he had more than one woman now. But he dared to say that if Xue Qingqing hadn't betrayed him in the immortal world, he believed that he would never fall in love with any woman other than Xue Qingqing. They had known each other for thousands of years. He didn't get bored due to the passage of time. Instead, his love for that woman grew stronger and stronger. It was just like a jar of old wine. The longer it was aged, the more mellow and delicious it became. Also, the former immortal Emperor Qinghun was a paranoid maniac who pursued the path of sentience and eventually died on the path of sentience. He didn't hesitate to fight against the heavens, the samsara of fate, and the life and death struggle for the sake of his beloved. Even if he was suppressed by the heavenly Tao, ravaged by the thunder tribulation, and invaded by the demons in his heart, he ultimately retained that trace of obsession. It was his wife's face, the name he had been calling out for thousands of years. Mu Wenying looked at the silent Tan Xiao and felt a faint pain in her heart. She guessed that Tan Xiao once had a true love, though she couldn't guess what kind of form that love existed in. She was very smart. It could be said that she had a sharp mind. From Tan Xiao's words just now, she could even tell that the person Tan Xiao was talking about was himself. In the end, what was it that changed him? Mu Wenying wanted to find out the answer, but she didn't dare to delve into it. Knock, knock. Someone knocked on the door and pushed it open. Two young and beautiful waitresses stepped into the room and delivered 2 menus. Tan Xiao was pulled back from his memories. He wiped away the trace of pain in his eyes and signaled Mu Wenying to order. Delicacies. Good wine. Tan Xiao and Mu Wenying tacitly put aside the topic just now and chatted, enjoying the dinner time together. Ring, ring, ring. The cell phone rang. Tan Xiao grabbed the phone and saw that it was a call from Hao Lei. His heart suddenly moved. Several days had passed since the 4 zodiac jade carvings were sent over, yet there was still no news from the other 6 jade carvings. Could it be that Hao Lei was calling him now because there was a happy occasion? What's the matter, Hao Lei? With a bit of killing intent in her tone, Hao Lei said, Boss, we found the jade rat's whereabouts. But there's a problem in the middle. What problem? Tan Xiao frowned and asked. The person who called me is from overseas, said Hao Lei. He said that he has the jade rat we're looking for and also sent a few photos through the internet. He said that if we want the jade rat in his hands, we must increase the price by at least $500 million. Otherwise, he said that we'll never be able to collect the whole set of the 12 zodiac jade carvings. Agree with him. Tan Xiu replied without hesitation. Boss, this, said Hao Lei quickly. The jade carvings are very important to me, said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. It's related to an earth-shattering event I'm going to do in the future. Promise him that as long as we get the jade rat, we can transfer $500 million to him at any time. All right. Hao Lei replied and then hung up the phone. Mu Weining had never asked Tan Xiu why he wanted to collect the zodiac jade carvings. At this moment, after hearing Tan Xiu's words, she finally asked, "It's just a jade carving. Is it worth it for you to spend so much money?" "It's worth it." Tan Xiu nodded. "In my eyes, the value of the zodiac jade carvings can't be measured with money. To be honest, if I can collect the whole set of the 12 zodiac jade carvings in the future, not only will it be of great benefit to me, it will also be of great benefit to you." "What benefit?" asked Mu Weining curiously. "I can't tell you for the time being." Tan Xiu shook his head. "But believe me, you'll know it sooner or later." Ring, 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 Hao Lei called again. When Tan Xiu picked it up, the anger in her tone was even more intense as she loudly said, "Boss, the other party has no integrity. I just agreed to buy the jade rat from him for $500 million, but he unexpectedly raised the price. He wants to increase the price by $300 million to $800 million before he's willing to sell it to us. Also, he also has a request that we transfer $300 million to his Swiss bank account in advance. He's courting death." A cold light flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he asked in a deep voice, "Can you trace his information?" "It's very difficult, but it's not impossible," said Hao Lei. "Let's prepare for both sides. First, agree to his request. It's not $800 million, but $1 billion, said Tan Xiu. Tell him that I'll give him $1 billion as long as he's willing to sell the jade rat to me. However, tell him to give our store some time. Tell him that we need to raise money, and we can transfer half of the amount to his account within half a month at the latest. Chapter 860. A wise and far-sighted look flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he spoke again. Prepare for the second move. Send someone to track the source of the call and be sure to find his location. I'll ask someone else to help track it down later. But as long as he's in the mainland, I hope our people will find him first. Understood. Hao Lei replied concisely and directly hung up the phone. Tan Xiu sat at the dining table. Although his expression was calm, killing intent was surging inside his heart. He didn't like being coerced, nor did he like being played by others. The other party was too greedy, and he secretly decided that as long as he found him, he would absolutely make him regret it. Is it because of the zodiac jade carvings? Mu Weining gently put down her chopsticks and asked curiously. That's right. I already know the whereabouts of the jade rat. Tan Xiu nodded and said, but the other party is too greedy. He raised the price and crossed my bottom line. Mu Weining nodded silently. She knew that Tan Xiu was a very easygoing person. He wouldn't have been so angry if the other party hadn't gone too far. Imperial capital. The city made of steel and concrete was a scene of prosperity. It was located in a residential area outside the South Fifth Ring Road, but it was very special. The entire community was heavily guarded with 4 patrol teams patrolling 24 hours a day. All kinds of monitoring equipment weaved the entire community into a 3-dimensional network, monitoring every corner of the community. At the center of the community, surrounded by nearly 3-meter-high walls, there was only a seemingly ordinary 3-story building inside. For outsiders, this small building was the property office area, but it was full of mystery for the ability users and their families of the Special Abilities Bureau. Only Special Ability users could enter it. Basement 4. Aquababe was holding a satellite phone and constantly pacing back and forth outside the training room. She had just pressed the doorbell, but there was no answer. Duanmu Lin, who was training inside, didn't come out. What are you doing, Aquababe? Electrolady leisurely strolled over with a cup of green tea in her hand. However, her complexion was faintly pale and her black training clothes were soaked through. The wet clothes stuck to her body and vividly displayed her voluptuous figure. Tan Xiu called and said he's looking for the chief, said Aquababe with a forced smile. But when I rang the doorbell, I didn't get any answer. Did you forget that our chief likes to wear a headset during training? Electrolady laughed. If you want him to know that you're looking for him, you have to keep pressing the doorbell. Every 10 minutes, the director will take off his headset. Aquababe was taken aback and quickly nodded. Finally, the heavy metal door slowly opened. Duanmu Lin, who was sweating profusely, wiped his wet hair with a white towel and asked, "What's the matter?" Aquababe hurriedly handed over the satellite phone and said, "Chief, Tan Xiao is calling you. He said that he has something important to ask for your help." Tan Xiao? Duanmu Lin grabbed his phone, found the number on it, and dialed it back. After a few seconds, the call was connected. "Tan Xiao, are you looking for me?" "Senior Duanmu, I have something I need your help with." "Speak." "Well, it's like this." A strange expression appeared on Duanmu Lin's face during the conversation as he said, "It turns out that you're also the big boss behind the Grand Fortune Jewelry. It turns out that you're also the culprit behind the recent uproar of a treasure hunt worth hundreds of millions of dollars. However, I really want to know what exactly those zodiac jade carvings are. To think that they're worth you spending so much effort to find them." "The zodiac jade carvings are of no use to ordinary people," said Tan Xiao. "They don't have the slightest use even for ability users like you. But for me, they're a big help. You should have heard some things about martial cultivators. For us martial cultivators, the further we cultivate, the more difficult it is. It is really difficult to break through to the next level. Therefore, I need the zodiac jade carvings for me to comprehend the mysteries inside and strive to break through to a higher level as soon as possible." Duanmu Lin suddenly understood and nodded. "I've indeed heard about it. Alright, I promise you. I'll immediately contact the person in charge of the National Intelligence Department. As long as he's in our country, I'm sure I'll be able to find him soon. But if he's really abroad, I'll need to ask my superiors for instructions. I can activate the Skynet foreign intelligence system if I can get an approval." "Thank you, Senior Duanmu. I'll be waiting for your news." After thanking him, Tan Xiao directly hung up the phone. Duanmu Lin threw the satellite phone to Aquababe and quickly issued a series of orders. Inside one of the luxurious suites on the 24th floor of the Conrad Hotel, 5 black-robed old men exuding a gloomy aura were sitting cross-legged in a circle. In the middle of them was a small round table with a diameter of 1 meter. The whole table was scarlet red with a lifelike carving of a jade rat. The inside of the table was like surging magma, exuding a blurred luster. Not far away, on the sofa against the wall, a lazy-looking young man with white hair was holding a crystal glass in his hand, swirling the scarlet red wine inside. On the coffee table in front of him, there were 10 mobile phones. 2 of the phones had their batteries removed, and the SIM cards had also been removed. "Will the other party give us $1 billion, young master?" A petite and beautiful woman, who looked about 26 or 27 years old, stood neatly beside the white-haired young man. A thoughtful look flashed in her eyes as she asked softly, "The zodiac carvings contain enormous energy. I thought there's only one of them in the world, but I didn't expect there to be 12 of them," sneered the white-haired young man. "The behind-the-scenes boss of the Grand Fortune Jewelry has probably found the problem inside the zodiac jade carvings, so he's going to such great lengths to find them. I can't guess why he wants to find the whole set of zodiac jade carvings, but I think it's definitely of great use." "They can't find all of them," said the petite woman softly. "They're trying their best to find them just to prepare for us. What do you plan to do next? Are you going to Demonic City now and snatch the 6 jade carvings they got?" The white-haired young man crooked his finger and the petite woman immediately came to him. She then sat on his lap and pressed her head against his thigh. The white-haired young man stroked her soft long hair, but his eyes were particularly indifferent. "Now, there's no hurry. They only got 6 jade carvings now. I need to wait for them to find more jade carvings and then snatch them." "Then I don't understand. Why do you want money from them?" asked the petite woman. "We're not short of money now, are we?" The white-haired young man smiled and said, "Who says we're not short of money now? I've spent all my capital to equip that mercenary corps. If we can really get $1 billion, we can temporarily solve our financial problem. We can even get our hands on those 2 water defense missiles. Ring, ring, ring. Suddenly, one of the mobile phones rang. The white-haired young man grabbed the mobile phone and looked at the number displayed on it. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth as he picked it up and smilingly said, "What's up? Has General Manager Hao made a decision? $1 billion. Give us some time to prepare. But I seriously doubt that you have no sincerity in cooperating with us at all." Hao Lei's angry voice came out of the phone. "No sincerity?" The white-haired young man sneered. "What does it have to do with you whether I'm sincere or not? I have the jade rat you want in my hand, so you must listen to me. Else, I'll directly put the jade rat away and disappear. I'm afraid you can forget about collecting the 12 zodiac jade carvings for the rest of your life. 3 days. I'll only give you 3 days. If I don't see the money within 3 days, just forget that I've never contacted you." "Wait a minute." Hao Lei called out, "Our Grand Fortune jewelry is rich, but we spent a lot of money to buy 2 big jade raw materials some time ago. We don't have that much money now. The 3 days you gave me is too short. I need to find a way to raise the money. I need time." The white-haired young man was silent for a moment and resolutely said, "5 days. I'll give you 2 more days. Don't bargain with me anymore. If you haven't transferred the deposit to my account within 5 days, we'll have no more business with each other." "All right." Hao Lei replied and then said, "But I don't trust you. So I want to see if the jade rat is what we need." The white-haired young man sneered, "Don't worry. Since I want to earn this money, I'll naturally satisfy some of your wishes. Wait for me for 10 minutes. I'll let you see the jade rat through an online video call 10 minutes later. It's a deal." Having said that, Hao Lei directly hung up the phone. Time fleeted by. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Aside from the jade rat, Tan Xiao, who was in Shanghai, still had no news about the other 5 zodiac jade carvings. For the sake of the jade carvings, Tan Xiao gave up the idea of immediately rushing to Longquan Bay in Kanas and quietly waited for the news. In these 2 days, he had declined a lot of invitations from people, as well as a lot of unimportant matters. Except when Hao Lei was not with him, he would put away his mobile phone. Other times, he would glance at it from time to time, hoping to get the information he wanted to know as soon as possible. Ring, ring, ring. Just when Tan Xiao was a bit impatient from waiting, he received a call from Duanmu Lin. After the call was connected, he hurriedly asked, "Senior Duanmu, how's the investigation on your side?" "Macau, Conrad Hotel," said Duanmu Lin. "We haven't found any other information yet, but I believe it won't be long." "Macau?" Tan Xiao abruptly got up, quickly put on his coat and rushed outside. Since he had found the hiding place of the other party, he needed to go there himself. Other things were not important at the moment, but the jade rat. "Oh, are there any of our people in Macau?" asked Tan Xiao after leaving the Blue Star Villa complex. "I don't know about that. I need to ask the little boss," said Mo. Chapter 861. After contacting Gu Xiaoxue, Tan Xiao learned that there were indeed people from the Everlasting Feast Hall in Macau. To be precise, it was a branch of the Everlasting Feast Hall that had recently opened in Macau. It was Hu Jiwu. He was the general manager of the Everlasting Feast Hall's branch in Macau and the person in charge of the intelligence network in Macau. He was only in his early 30s, yet he had done several sensational things in the mercenary and assassin world. He looked gentle like a weak scholar, but those who knew him well knew that he was definitely a ruthless and merciless person who killed people like scything flax. "Ah Jean, how's the medicinal herbs issue?" Inside the branch office, Hu Jiwu stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window with a solemn expression and asked a young man with his back facing him. The young man looked to be in his late 20s with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks. His eyes gleamed with shrewdness. Upon hearing Hu Jiwu's question, he nodded and said, "I've used all your money to buy medicinal herbs, manager. It's just that the price of precious medicinal herbs is very high nowadays, so the quantity I bought is very small." Hu Jiwu nodded and said, "No matter how many there are, send them to Jingmen Island as soon as possible. The earlier we get the medicinal pills, the earlier we can break through to the mid-stage of foundation establishment." "Understood." The young man hurriedly nodded and complied. Ring, ring, ring. 2 mobile phones were placed on the table, and one of them suddenly rang. Hu Jiwu stared blankly and his complexion suddenly changed. He had 2 mobile phone numbers. The other one was his private number, and the one that rang was the everlasting feast hall's mission number. Every time this phone rang, it meant that there was an important mission. After the call was connected, Hu Jiwu said in a deep voice, Hu Jiwu speaking. I'm Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu's voice came out of the phone. Upon hearing the name, Hu Jiwu's expression immediately changed and he respectfully said, Are you looking for me, boss? Are you in Macau? Tan Xiu said. There's something important I need you to do. Please tell me, boss. Hu Jiwu respectfully said. Tan Xiu told him the whole story and finally said in a deep voice, Send some people to closely monitor the Conrad Hotel. Record anyone who comes in and out. If you find any suspicious people, keep a close watch on them. In addition, a group of people from the headquarters in Jingmen Island will rush over at the fastest speed. When the time comes, you will send some people to assist them and monitor all the exit channels in Macau. Once the identity of the other party is determined, lock on the target at the fastest speed and make sure they stay. Yes, I'll do it right away. Hu Jiwu realized the seriousness of the matter and replied with a solemn expression. After hanging up the phone, he immediately stopped the young man and said in a deep voice, Jean, let's put aside the medicinal herbs first. There's something important we need to do now. Jean asked, Was it the big boss who just called you? Hu Jiwu nodded and said, That's right. The big boss personally issued the order, so we must do it beautifully. How about this? Gather all the security forces immediately. Macau Island Fort Town Port. A passenger ship slowly docked. After Tang Yunda got off the ship along with the passengers, he saw a middle-aged man on the coast quickly greeting him under the protection of 4 black-clad bodyguards. The smile on Tang Yunda's face was very wide. He strode forward and gave the middle-aged man a big hug. This was the second time he saw his former brother after he woke up from his coma. Yunda, you're finally here, said Shen Anhu excitedly. I immediately rushed over after receiving your call, said Tang Yunda with a smile. Don't worry. I'm here to solve the problem. Chen Anhu forced a wry smile and said, Yunda, I'm afraid I really need you to solve it this time. The other party's background is very big. The Zhao family in the imperial capital is behind them, and those experts are from abroad. I really can't handle it anymore. Tang Yunda patted his shoulder and said, I brought a lot of people with me this time. In order not to be noticed by the other party, they have come to Macau through other means. Let's go. I found some suspicious people in the vicinity before I got off the ship. Chen Anhu's expression slightly changed as he nodded and said, Let's go. An hour later. Macau, Island Palace Garden, Tongxia District. This was the most luxurious villa area in the entire Macau, and the people who could live here were either rich or respectable. There were a total of 100 villas, covering an enormous area. Each villa was located in an extremely hidden location, and the distance between them and other villas was also very far. On the second floor of Villa 058, Tang Yunda and Chen Anhu were sitting in the study room on the second floor. Both of them didn't look too good. They didn't even have the mood to taste the fragrant tea that filled the room. Anhu, tell us the specific situation. Chen Anhu nodded and said, The one who's going against us this time is the Zhang family of Macau. They're also a wealthy family that controls 60% of the casino in Macau. In the past, the Zhang family has been very low-key, and it can be said that they've made a fortune in a low-key manner. But now it's different. The Zhang family has a favored son of heaven. He's 28 years old this year and has replaced his grandfather as the real helmsman of the Zhang family. Furthermore, the Zhang family's business has been transformed since a few years ago. Now, they're not only involved in the casino business, but also in the real estate, jewelry, and automobile industries. Rumors even say that the Zhang family has several mines in Africa. Tang Yunda squinted his eyes. He recalled his son's ability, so he didn't look down on the favored son of heaven of the Zhang family. However, since the Zhang family was so powerful, this matter was probably not that simple. Perhaps there were some dangerous factors in this trip. Is the Jingzhen Martial School really controlled by the Zhang family? Chen Anhu nodded and said, I've sent some people to investigate it. Not only the Jingzhen Martial School, but also the Black Man Society is also secretly controlled by the Zhang family. The Black Man Society is the largest security company in Macau with nearly 1,000 security guards. Furthermore, the investigation shows that these security guards are not ordinary security guards. Each of them has countless backgrounds. Tang Yunda was silent for a few minutes. As he finished smoking a cigarette, he slowly said, those two ports have always been our most profitable business, so cargo transportation is very important. The Zhang family is forcing us to hand over the ports, which is absolutely unacceptable. We'll go see that evildoer of the Zhang family tomorrow. If he's really that strong, I can only ask for external help. Chen Anhu stared blankly and asked with a confused expression, ask for external help? What do you mean? Tang Yunda forced a smile and said, I'm looking for help. Chen Anhu suddenly understood and nodded. If the Tang family comes forward, we can suppress the Zhangs. I believe the Zhangs won't dare to go against your Tang family for the sake of those two ports. Tang Yunda shook his head and said, it's not the Tang family. It's my son. Chen Anhu was dumbfounded. He was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he said, Brother Yunda, you want to ask your son for help? Are you kidding me? Even if his business in the mainland is very good, he can't extend his hand to Macau, can he? I know my son, said Tang Yunda. Even if we can't solve it, he can easily do it. Chen Anhu shook his head and let out a non-committal smile. He had heard from Tang Yunda that Tan Xiu had founded the magnificent Tang Corporation with his own ability at a young age. Now, the entire magnificent Tang Corporation had developed rapidly and was catching up with those large domestic enterprises. However, it was likely that the Tang family wouldn't be able to extend their hands to Macau. Tang Xiu alone wouldn't be able to do so. Late at night, in a presidential suite on the 24th floor of the Conrad Hotel, a white-haired young man was sleeping soundly on the big bed with two blonde foreign girls in his arms. In the living room outside the bedroom, 5 black-robed old men were sitting cross-legged around a small round table like old monks in meditation. However, the jade rat on the small round table was nowhere to be seen. Inside the large floor-to-ceiling window, a petite woman was observing the situation near the hotel through a gap in the curtains with binoculars. 10 minutes ago, she had found some suspicious people near the hotel. After 10 minutes of observation, she became more and more certain that those people were very suspicious. Kitty, being too suspicious will make you very tired. If you want to live safely, the most important thing is to have your own strength. If you have the time to observe the outside, you might as well go back to your room and cultivate. A black-robed old man sitting cross-legged suddenly opened his eyes and said. The petite woman turned around, put down the binoculars and said, no matter how strong I am, I can't guarantee young master's safety if I can't detect the danger in time. Besides, you're here. Even if I'm very weak, I can still make you prepare for defense as long as I can detect the danger in advance. The black-robed old man shook his head. The 5 of them had raised this child, so they naturally knew what she was thinking. Even if their young master was fond of beauties and often fooled around, she still put her heart on him. She even stubbornly believed that she could become their young master's woman one day. What a pity! The 5 of them were perfectly aware that unless their young master could become the ruler of the Darkness clan, he must never fall in love with any woman, let alone marry any woman. Go back to your room and rest. The black-robed old man closed his eyes again and slowly said. The petite woman shook her head and said, there's a situation near the hotel. I must monitor it. The black-robed old man opened his eyes again and said with a frown, you said there's a situation near the hotel? What situation? The petite woman said, 10 minutes ago, I used the binoculars to observe and found a few suspicious people. After 10 minutes of observation, I found at least 6 people near the hotel without any target or anything. They are like intelligence agents, monitoring everyone going in and out of the hotel. One of them was even hiding in the car, as if he was recording something. The black-robed old man floated up and quickly came to the window, looking outside through the curtain gap. His eyes flickered as he calmly observed for a few minutes. Then he indifferently said, "Go wake up the young master. We'll move immediately." The petite woman whispered, "Young master hates it when people disturb him while he's sleeping. Besides, those people's target may not be us. Why don't we wait and see?" Chapter 862. The black-robed old man shook his head indifferently and said, "We just arrived in Macau and don't know much about the situation here. Many powerful characters have emerged here ever since Macau returned to China. Hence, we must eliminate any dangerous factors. We must evacuate." The petite woman thought for a while and nodded. She then came to the master bedroom's door and knocked on it. "We need to move now, young master." In the bedroom, the white-haired youth opened his eyes, and a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. He immediately got off the bed and put on his clothes. He didn't even look at the two blonde beauties who were still sleeping like dead pigs. After opening the door and walking out, he asked, "What happened? Why did you move so late at night?" "There are some suspicious people near this hotel," said the petite woman. "We haven't figured out their purpose yet, but we'd better move to a safer place immediately to prevent any accidents. I'll immediately contact the people at safety station number 2 to greet you as long as you agree." A chilling light flashed in the white-haired youth's eyes and he asked in a deep voice, "Do you suspect that those suspicious people are from the Grand Fortune Jewelry? If their target is not us, then they shouldn't be from the Grand Fortune Jewelry," said the petite woman. "But if they're monitoring us, then apart from the Grand Fortune Jewelry's people, there's only your brother's people." The white-haired youth snorted coldly and said, "It's impossible for the Grand Fortune Jewelry to have such a powerful intelligence network. They can lock our position just by relying on my phone calls. It seems that my good big brother is really eager to make trouble. Let's go and leave this place." A few minutes later, a group of 7 people left the hotel. They didn't leave through the normal passage but quietly jumped from a secret corner of the hotel and disappeared into the garden behind. Half a minute after they left, a ghostly figure silently appeared and chased in the direction they had left. Just half a minute later, the ghostly figure suddenly stopped at the edge of the garden. To be precise, it was blocked by a black mist that was spreading toward the surroundings. Someone from the Dark Shaman clan? Behind the towering tree, Hu Jiwu's eyes flashed with dread. He didn't continue to chase because he was well aware of the effect of the black mist in front of him. He was afraid that he would get lost inside even if he rushed into the black mist now. However, he could not give up the task given by his boss. Hu Jiwu took out his phone, opened a communication app, and quickly issued an order. "Ah Jin, Ah Tong, the enemy has escaped from the hotel and is fleeing in your direction. Keep an eye on them. They are from the Dark Shaman clan. I'll catch up with them immediately. Remember, keep in touch with me and tell me where you are." "All right." A simple reply came. Hu Jiwu hung up the phone and dialed Tan Xiu's cell number. The call was quickly connected. Before Tan Xiu could speak, Hu Jiwu immediately said, "Boss, I have a new situation to report." "Speak." Tan Xiu's voice came from the phone. "We've been monitoring the Conrad Hotel as per your order," said Hu Jiwu. "But a few minutes ago, a group of 7 people secretly left from the back of the hotel. After I discovered them, I was tracking them, but I was blocked by a black fog. I suspect they're from the Dark Shaman clan." "What kind of clan is the Dark Shaman clan?" asked Tan Xiu. "There's some information about the Dark Shaman clan in our Everlasting Feast Hall's archives," said Hu Jiwu. "This clan is based in Tea Country, but they have their own forces in Southeast Asia. The Dark Shaman clan is also known as a witchcraft clan. It's somewhat similar to the dark witchcraft in Europe, but it's not exactly the same. Among them, the sorcerer in Southeast Asia is a branch of the Dark Shaman clan." "Is this Dark Shaman clan very powerful?" asked Tan Xiu in a deep voice. "Decades ago, this Dark Shaman clan was indeed very powerful, with a large number of people proficient in witchcraft," said Hu Jiwu. "But at the peak of their clan's power, they provoked a powerful enemy, the second largest organization in the world, the Crusader Consortium. That's why a world-shaking war broke out between them. In the end, the Crusader Consortium won, and the Dark Shaman clan was almost slaughtered. After decades, the Dark Shaman clan should have recovered some of its strength, but it's no longer as glorious as it was in the past. I got it, Tan Xiu lightly said. Continue to track them and never lose them. I'll arrive in Macau in 2 hours at most. Understood, replied Hu Jiwu respectfully with a solemn expression. 2 hours later, Tan Xiu led Mo and the others to Macau. Just as they disembarked from the passenger ship, 2 stalwart men came to greet them. The 2 men saluted respectfully. How's the situation? Tan Xiu nodded and asked. Where are the Dark Shaman people now? One of them answered, they're in a farmhouse in Donglong Slope. Captain who has taken some men to seal off the place and is waiting for you, boss. Let's go, said Tan Xiu. Donglong Slope, fishing village farmhouse. Inside a dimly lit house, a white-haired youth's face was frosty and his eyes gleamed with hostility. Behind him, apart from the 5 silent black-robed old men, there was only the petite woman. Creak. The door was pushed open and a skinny middle-aged man entered. He quickly closed the door from the inside and reported in a low voice, Young master, it has been confirmed that the other party has a total of 6 people scattered around the farmhouse. I don't like people who stutter. Continue. The white-haired youth coldly snorted. Understood. The skinny middle-aged man said, but I suspect that the other party has more than 6 people. Further, I can tell from their movements that they are experts, at least not worse than ordinary martial arts grandmasters. The white-haired youth's pupils shrunk and he incredulously said, 6 experts who are not worse than martial arts grandmasters? Is this the number on the surface? The skinny middle-aged man nodded and said, that's right. They are very fast and very vigilant. I deliberately sent some people to patrol outside, but they can easily avoid them. When the patrols I sent out leave, they will silently appear again. The white-haired youth clenched his fists and said in a heavy tone, my good big brother really thinks highly of me. He didn't hesitate to pay such a huge price to find so many experts just for the true witchcraft scripture and the heritage pearl in my hands. However, it's just that he didn't expect me to impart the true solution of witchcraft to all of you 8 years ago, causing your strength to increase greatly. Not to mention 6 martial Dao masters, even if there were 60 of them, they would be able to kill all of them here. The petite woman quickly asked, Young master, what should we do next? Go out and kill them now? The white-haired youth was silent for more than 10 seconds. As the killing intent in his eyes slowly faded away, he shook his head and said, now is not the time to shed all pretense of cordiality with him. I need to make a deal with the Grand Fortune Jewelry first. At the very least, he had to get the first sum of money first before dealing with these people. Come on, let's leave this place and go to the 3rd safety station. The skinny middle-aged man hurriedly asked, Young master, what about the people outside? The white-haired young man narrowed his eyes and sized him up before asking, do the people you've trained outside know about your identity? The skinny middle-aged man shook his head and said, they don't know. The white-haired youth said coldly, since they don't know, then let them stay here to attract the attention of those people. Keep in mind that I gave you your life, so you must be absolutely loyal to me. You know the consequences if you lie to me on this matter. I can assure you that those people I've trained outside really don't know my true identity, said the skinny middle-aged man hurriedly. They're just tools I've trained to amass wealth. The white-haired youth nodded and said, lead the way. Please follow me, young master, said the skinny middle-aged man hurriedly. Shortly after, they passed through 2 secret doors inside under the guidance of the skinny middle-aged man and entered a room with sundries. A pair of scissors in the pile of sundries was slowly turned and a hole suddenly appeared on the dirty and messy wall. As time passed by, the hole became bigger and bigger and eventually formed a door. Young master, go down the rope. There's an underground passage 5 meters down there. We can leave the Nongjia house through this underground passage and appear on the side of the underground river nearby, said the skinny middle-aged man in a low voice. Let's go. The white-haired youth made a gesture to the petite woman, who immediately grabbed the rope and quickly went down. In just a short while, all 8 of them went down. The cracked wall also slowly closed after they all went down. It was impossible to see any clues from the outside. At the periphery of the Agricola, Hu Jiwu never thought that there would be an underground passage here. He had brought more than a dozen experts of the everlasting feast hall, yet none of them had left. Time fleeted by. When 4 black SUVs came from a distance and stopped at the entrance of the Agricola, dozens of stalwart men rushed out of the manor. Each and every one of them looked extremely fierce with knives and sticks in their hands. The burly man, who was the leader, glared at Tang Xiu and the others who came down from the car like a tiger watching its prey. "Boss." Hu Jiwu, along with Ajin, appeared in front of Tan Xiu and respectfully greeted him. "Where are they?" asked Tan Xiu. "Are they inside?" Hu Jiwu asked. "We tracked them all the way here." The group of 7 people entered a row of houses inside the Agricola. "We've guarded the entire Agricola, but they haven't left yet." Tan Xiu nodded in response. He then looked at the leader of the stalwart men and said in a deep voice, "Go tell the people inside to come out." The stalwart man vigilantly looked at Tan Xiu and the others and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you? I don't know what you mean." Chapter 863. There's no need to hide anymore. Tan Xiu sneered. "The Dark Shaman clan was once glorious, so there's no need for you to hide in a mouse hole now, is there? Go inform the people inside and tell them to come out. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing them." The stalwart man frowned and turned to speak to a middle-aged man behind him. As the middle-aged man quickly ran inside, the stalwart man turned around and indifferently said, "I don't know what you mean, but this is our Agricola's place to do business. Not just anyone can come here and make trouble." Tan Xiu snorted coldly and waved his hand to quickly disperse Moo and the others, surrounding the entire Agricola more tightly. He didn't rush to act and just waited quietly. A few minutes later, the middle-aged man who just left ran out with a flustered expression. He quickly came to the stalwart man and said, "There's no one inside, brother." "What?" The stalwart man was stunned and disbelief was written all over his face. He hurriedly asked, "You said there's no one inside? What about our boss? What about the guests?" "I don't know, but there's really no one inside." The middle-aged man shook his head. Not far away, Tan Xiu's expression changed. He strode forward and shouted in a deep voice, "Capture them!" Immediately, a few lightning-like figures quickly pounced on them. They were extremely fast, and their attacks were ruthless. In just a few seconds, dozens of big men were all knocked to the ground. There were even a few strong men who were struggling to get up, but they were instantly crippled. Tan Xiu's face was gloomy and his spiritual sense instantly covered the entire Agricola. What made him angry was that there was no one else inside. "Hu Jiwu." Disbelief flashed in Hu Jiwu's eyes as he quickly ran to Tan Xiu and said, "What's your order, boss?" "Where are they?" shouted Tan Xiu coldly. "Where are the people I asked you to watch over?" Hu Jiwu hurriedly said, "Boss, they are definitely still inside. I can guarantee that no one has left since we arrived." Ajin, who had followed him, also said quickly, "Boss, what Captain Hu said is true. We have guarded the entire Nongjia. Even if they can fly over eaves and walk on walls, they can't escape from our eyes, let alone all the roads." Tan Xiu frowned. According to them, those people were still in the farmhouse? However, when he used his divine sense to scan the area, apart from the dozens of men who had lost their ability to resist, there was no one else. Could it be that there was an underground secret chamber in this farmhouse? Thinking of this, Tan Xiu released his soul sense again. Even the corners of the houses and even the gaps of each room were carefully searched by him. Finally, his soul sense found a problem in one of the storerooms. In fact, when his divine sense entered it, a bad feeling arose in his heart. A moment later, Tan Xiu appeared in the storeroom. With a fierce punch, a hole was blasted in the wall. "It's empty down there, boss. There's a rope inside." Moo poked his head inside and observed for a moment before he turned around and hurriedly reported. Tan Xiu nodded slightly and made the hole bigger until he could drill through it. He then grabbed the rope with both hands and quickly went down. Then he quickly moved forward along the underground passage in front of him. His soul sense scanned the underground passage and didn't find any danger in it. Light? It's not an underground secret chamber, but an underground passage? Did the Dark Shaman clansmen leave through this underground passage? No wonder Hu Jiwu and the others didn't notice their escape in advance. But how could there be an underground passage in this small farmhouse? Is this one of the Dark Shaman clan's secret strongholds? He drilled out of the hole. Tan Xiao looked at the underground river in front of him. The space here was very large and the river was not very wide, but the current was very turbulent. There was even a faint starlight shining through a crack in the soil. The exit is in front, boss. This underground river is very short, only about a kilometer. It's connected to the entrance of a large river outside. Mo all went to the front to investigate and quickly came back to report. At this moment, Hu Jiwu, who was following Tan Xiao, had a bitter expression on his face. He never expected that this small farmhouse would have an underground secret passage. He originally thought that the other party wouldn't be able to escape even if they had wings, but he didn't expect that the other party had already slipped away. I was wrong, boss. Hu Jiwu felt sullen inside. This was, after all, the first time his big boss put him in charge of something, yet he screwed it up. It's not your fault. Tan Xiao shook his head and said, "Who would have thought that there would be an underground secret passage here? If it were me, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to keep an eye on them. Don't blame yourself. As long as they're still in Macau, we can still find them. Let's go. Arrange a place for us to stay first, and then spread out your men." Understood. The sullen feeling inside Hu Jiwu's heart turned more intense. If Tang Xiao were to blame him or even punish him, he might feel better inside. The next morning, Tan Xiao woke up from his sleep and looked at the time. It was already 7:30 a.m. After washing up, he took out his mobile and dialed his father, Tang Yunda's cell number. "Why did you suddenly call me? Is something the matter?" Tang Yunda's surprised voice came from the phone. "I'm afraid I need your help with something, Dad," said Tan Xiao. Tang Yunda couldn't help laughing and said, "I have something I need your help with. I didn't expect that you would call me first to ask for help. Tell me, what is it that even you can't handle?" Tan Xiao stared blankly and asked with a puzzled expression, "You also need my help? What is it?" "You tell me first," Tang Guoxing said with a smile. "It's like this. I'm now in Macau to track some people's traces," said Tan Xiao. "Don't you have an acquaintance here? So I want you to contact him and provide us with some help in Macau." Tang Guoxing was surprised. "You're in Macau?" But Tang Guoxing was silent for a moment and then asked, "The Sheraton Hotel." Tang Guoxing was silent for a moment and then asked, "Tell me your room number." Tan Xiao didn't understand why his father wanted to ask him for a room number, but he quickly told him. Then, the phone was hung up. "What's going on?" Tan Xiao stared blankly and stared at the mobile screen for a long time without reacting. A few minutes later, someone knocked on the door. Inside the living room, Tan Xiao, who was hesitating whether he should call again, looked up at the direction of the door and then gestured to his father. To his surprise, when he opened the door, it turned out to be his father, Tang Yunda, who came in. "Dad, why are you here?" asked Tan Xiao incredulously. "Didn't I just tell you on the phone?" Tang Yunda said with a smile. "I still have something I want to ask you for help with. It's about the matter in Macau. I didn't expect that you would also come here. Tell me, who are the people you want to track? What's their origin?" "We haven't figured out their real identity yet, but they should be people from the Dark Shaman clan in T country," said Tan Xiao. "That's right, my men took a picture of them last night. The photos will be sent to you soon. It shouldn't be a problem to find them as long as they have the photos." Tang Yunda nodded. "They're not ordinary people, Dad," said Tan Xiao cautiously. "I know about the Dark Shaman clan and know that they have witchcraft heritage. They're a very mysterious and special kind of people. You must warn them when you send someone to look for them. Don't act rashly and alert them. Otherwise, I'm afraid they'll lose their lives if they take action." "How did you provoke such people, Xiao?" asked Tang Yunda with a frown. "I didn't provoke them, but they provoked me," said Tan Xiao. "Have you heard about the sky-high treasure hunt in our country?" Tang Yunda nodded and said, "I heard about it. I don't know which prodigal son is looking for a complete set of zodiac jade carvings. The price of each jade carving is 100 million US dollars. If all 10 zodiac jade carvings are found, it's worth 1 billion US dollars. Even if he's rich, he can't waste it like this. Suddenly Tang Yunda's words came to an abrupt halt. He looked at his son, Tan Xiao, who suddenly had an awkward expression. Disbelief rose inside him as he asked, Xiao, you're not that prodigal son, are you? Coughed. Tan Xiao nearly spurted out a mouthful of blood. He let out a hollow laugh and said, I'm indeed that prodigal son, Dad. Tang Yunda was dumbfounded. He never expected that the person who caused such a big storm and was such a prodigal son turned out to be his precious son. Dad, there's actually an important reason why I spent so much money to find the zodiac jade carvings. Tan Xiao let out a hollow laugh. You know I'm a cultivator, and the zodiac jade carvings are the most precious treasures in my eyes. They're related to a big plan of mine in the future. They'll even be of great help to my cultivation. In the eyes of cultivators, what they want the most is immortal fate. And the whole set of zodiac jade carvings is my immortal fate. Tang Yunda felt relieved. He was also a bit embarrassed after hearing his son's explanation. But as a father, he didn't want to lose face in front of his son. He hurriedly changed the topic and said, Forget it. Let's not talk about this. I know about your matter, and I'll arrange it later after I get the photos. You must also pay attention to me when it's my turn. This is related to my business with hundreds of millions of dividends every year. Please say it's the... Tan Xiao said with a straight face. Tang Yunda thought for a while and suddenly said, Forget it. I'll solve it myself first. If I can't solve it in the end, I'll let you find another way. Your matter is more important, so you should solve your own matter first. Alright. Tan Xiao nodded and said, Since you don't want to tell me now, then I won't be in a hurry to ask. That jade rat is indeed very important to me. I must find it no matter how much it costs and no matter how difficult it is. If you need me, just tell me at any time. Chapter 864. The famous commercial street, Shirpan, was located in the northern Bay Area of Macau. It was a paradise for shoppers and was close to the coastal expressway. Tourists who were familiar with Macau knew that this was a must-visit place. Koha? Bro, do you feel cool? Yu Kai drove an Audi sedan and sped on the coastal expressway at lightning speed. With a carefree expression on his face, he shouted loudly to Hu Qingsong in the front passenger seat along with the loud music in the car. Hu Qingsong's eyes fell on the beach not far away, watching a group of gorgeously dressed women in bikinis. His eyes seemed to have turned into a 200-degree light bulb. In particular, several speedboats in the distant sea gave him the impulse to drive them across the sea. Cool. That's freaking cool. Yu Kai burst into laughter and shouted, Just you wait. Bro, I'll take you to the beach to have some fun. I know a place with a lot of beautiful girls. We can make them treat us like big shots as long as we're willing to spend some money. Hu Qingsong's expression suddenly froze. He turned to look at Yu Kai, who had a carefree smile on his face, and helplessly said, How can we have money? God damn it. I wouldn't have gambled with those bastards at the casino yesterday if I knew there was such a good place. That's 100,000 yuan. I've worked so hard to save 100,000 yuan, yet I've spent more than 80,000 yuan there. It's not even enough to pay for next semester's tuition fees and living expenses. Yu Kai patted the steering wheel and indifferently said, It's all right. I've got plenty of money. If worst comes to worst, I'll go back and ask my old man for money. I'll sell the car if he doesn't give it to me. It's not easy for us to have a vacation, and we've come to the colorful world of Macau. How can we face ourselves if we don't have some fun? That's true. Hu Qingsong put away his gloomy mood and urged, Hurry up. I can't wait to hit on some pretty girls. Pervert. Same to you. On Shirpan Street, inside a 20-story building, a white-haired youth looked gloomily at the seascape outside with killing intent flashing in his eyes. Young master, the news just came, eldest young master had a conflict with Luo, the taming headmaster. Eldest young master suffered a loss. Moreover, Both sides have been secretly competing recently. Eldest young master's men haven't left country tea. The petite woman handed a stack of documents to the white-haired young man. The white-haired youth frowned and quickly looked through it. His eyes revealed a confused look as he muttered to himself, "If those people are not Big Brother's people, then who are they?" The petite woman's expression shifted and she suddenly said, "Young master, could it be someone from the Grand Fortune Jewelry?" The white-haired youth turned his head and sneered, "Do you think a jewelry company can have a group of powerful experts?" The petite woman said, "Everything is possible. Even if it wasn't someone from the Grand Fortune Jewelry, it could be someone else hired by them. Young master, we've investigated the Grand Fortune Jewelry before. The assets of the entire Grand Fortune Jewelry should be less than 10 billion, right? But where did they get the money to buy so many zodiac jade carvings? If they buy all 10 zodiac jade carvings, the amount they need to spend should be almost the same as the total assets of the Grand Fortune Jewelry, no?" The white-haired youth's expression slightly changed and he said in a deep voice, "You mean the Grand Fortune Jewelry is hiding some secret? Or is it not the Grand Fortune Jewelry who bought the zodiac jade carvings this time? Or is it someone else?" "I think so," said the petite woman, "else Grand Fortune Jewelry wouldn't have taken out all its wealth just to buy those 10 jade carvings. Maybe someone entrusted the Grand Fortune Jewelry to buy them, which means the real buyer is someone else." The white-haired youth finally became vigilant. If that was the case, then he would be in big trouble. After all, the person who could take out $1 billion to buy the zodiac jade carvings must have a very deep background. At this moment, one of the 5 black-robed old men sitting cross-legged on the ground suddenly floated up and came to the white-haired youth's side, saying, "There's something I need to remind you about, young master." The white-haired youth frowned and asked, "What is it?" "Huaxia has a long history and has countless terrifying forces," said the black-robed old man. "People in the Western world think that China is very mysterious, but I know a lot about it. We can't provoke some forces in China unless it's a last resort, else it'll be very troublesome." "Be more specific," said the white-haired youth. "Many families in China are very powerful, and some of them have been passed down for a long time with unfathomable heritage," said the black-robed old man. "Furthermore, China has always advocated martial arts, and the number of people who practice martial arts is like the carps crossing the river. Also, as far as I know, there are many sects and schools in China, among which the most mysterious and terrifying are the cultivators. The Crusades and the Western Dark World's invasion were eventually defeated by the secluded cultivators of China." Cultivators? The white-haired youth had heard that such people existed in China, but he thought it was just a legend. He didn't expect that they really existed. "That's right. They're cultivators," said the black-robed old man. "You should know the top 3 organizations in the world. But very few people from those 3 organizations dare to set foot in China. On one hand, there are many ability users in China's Special Abilities Bureau, and on the other hand, they are afraid of the cultivators of China. It can be said that China has many crouching tigers and hidden dragons, with countless powerhouses." The white-haired youth squinted his eyes and coldly asked, "You mean, the people looking for the zodiac jade carvings are likely to be cultivators of China?" "There's a terrifying energy inside the jade rat," said the black-robed old man. "We've always tried our best, but we can only barely absorb a little bit of it. Perhaps the existence of the zodiac jade carvings was discovered by the cultivators of China, so they spent a lot of money to look for them everywhere." "No wonder those people could easily find our hotel yesterday," snorted the white-haired youth coldly. "No wonder they could follow us all the way to the number 2 safety station. Money is a good thing, but if they're really cultivators of China, we can only forget about the deal and return to tea country." The black-robed old man shook his head and said, "If they're really cultivators, they'll find us even if we leave. I'm sure our photos are already in their hands." The white-haired youth opened his mouth and was about to speak, but the petite woman beside him suddenly had a slight change in expression and quickly said, "I'm afraid we're in trouble, young master." "What's the situation?" asked the white-haired youth. The petite woman pointed to the ground outside the French window and quickly said, "I saw the same group of people pass by here 3 times in 2 hours. It's obvious that they're looking for someone. These people are not the ones who monitored and followed us yesterday. They look like ordinary people, but they're likely to be the ones looking for us. That's impossible. The white-haired youth coldly snorted. Even if those people are very powerful in China, they can't stretch their hands to Macau, can they? No, it's very easy. The petite woman shook her head. Now, Macau is also part of China's territory. The white-haired youth thought for a while and quickly took out a mobile phone and dialed Hao Lei's number. However, a male voice came out of the phone after the call was connected. I'm glad you called me again. The white-haired youth's expression slightly changed and asked in a deep voice, Who are you? It doesn't matter who I am. Tan Xiao smilingly said, What's important is that your dark shaman clan is really bold and greedy. To be honest, you should be glad that there aren't many of my men operating in Macau for the time being, and it's not my territory either. Otherwise, you would have already knelt in front of me and begged for mercy. The white-haired youth's heart skipped a beat. He didn't expect that the other party knew his true identity. Who the hell are you? Don't worry. You want to play a game of cat and mouse with me, then I'll accompany you to the end, said Tan Xiao. The dark shaman clan, huh? Hee, I can tell you responsibly that this clan will no longer exist in Tea Country until this evening at the latest. You poor wretches who hide your heads and tails can only flee to the ends of the world like stray dogs. Of course, the premise is that you can escape my layout in Macau and the eyes I've sent out. The white-haired youth's pupils shrunk and he shouted in a deep voice, You're a Chinese cultivator? You guessed it right. It's a pity that there's no reward for you though, said Tan Xiao smilingly. Good luck and try to survive until this time tomorrow. Having said that, the call was hung up. The white-haired youth's expression turned extremely unsightly as he listened to the busy tone coming from the phone. He never dreamed that he would really provoke a Chinese cultivator. He didn't expect that the other party would be so arrogant that he dared to hang up the phone without getting the jade rat. Suddenly, the white-haired youth realized something and turned to look at the petite woman. He hurriedly said, Contact the people from Tea Country's Aviation Administration and the Oceanic Administration. Find out for me whether any strangers from China have entered Tea Country's territory from yesterday to today. Understood. The petite woman replied and walked to the side to dial the phone. Half an hour later, the petite woman received a call. After talking for half a minute, she hung up the phone and came to the white-haired youth's side. She then said, Our people have found out that a tourist group from Jingmen Island arrived in Tea Country 3 hours ago. They said that those people are very strange. They don't look like ordinary tourists, but more like soldiers or bodyguards. Also, some people in Tea Country were secretly monitoring them, but they didn't track them for long before they lost track of them. The white-haired youth trembled and hurriedly asked, How many people did they have? Not many, only about 20 people, answered the petite woman. More than 20 people. Chapter 865. The white-haired youth's heart calmed down a bit. Although the dark shaman clan had fewer members than before, they still had hundreds of members. Most of them were proficient in black witchcraft, and even ordinary special forces soldiers posed no threat to them. However, for the sake of safety, the white-haired youth dialed the number again. This time, the phone rang for quite a while before it was picked up. Shall we talk, sir? Do you think there's a need to talk now? Tan Xiao chuckled. More than 20 cultivators under me have arrived in Tea Country. Perhaps they'll appear in your dark shaman clan's territory in a few hours. Or perhaps, your clan will be littered with corpses and rivers of blood a few hours later. That's right, there's something I need to tell you. If you're in the Golden North building, you can take a look down there. The white-haired youth looked down the building. What shocked him was that there were 4 black SUVs parked outside the building's entrance and 12 strong men standing in front of them. One of them, a handsome youth, was holding a mobile phone and waving in the direction of the building. How did you find us? The white-haired youth's voice was a bit trembling. There's something I forgot to tell you last time, Tan Xiao chuckled. I'm not only a cultivator, but also a member of China's special department. I only need to make a phone call and the entire intelligence network of China will be at my disposal. Macau is China's territory, so it's natural that I can easily find out where you're calling from. Damn it. The white-haired youth cursed and was ready to immediately hang up the phone and flee. Don't be in such a hurry to hang up the phone, said Tan Xiu. If I were you, I wouldn't be thinking about how to escape, but how to survive. Trust me, I have the ability to spend $1 or $2 billion on the zodiac jade carvings, so I have the ability to spend another $10 or $20 billion to put a bounty on the Dark Shaman clan's members all over the world, including you. Do you think there'll be a safe place for you to hide on Earth if I spend tens of billions of dollars? If you're really Chinese cultivators, then you do have the ability to exterminate all the Dark Shaman clansmen, said the white-haired youth in a deep voice. But I can also tell you that you'll never find the Jade Rat if you dare to touch any member of our Dark Shaman clan. Finished. He directly hung up the phone and took out the Jade Rat. He handed it to the petite woman and said in a deep voice, "Take it and try to escape from Macau. Remember to go to the next place and wait for me. If I die here, throw the Jade Rat into the Pacific Ocean." "Young master, I'm not leaving," the petite girl cried out hurriedly. "If you don't want me to die, you must do as I say. The other party wants the Jade Rat. As long as the Jade Rat is still in our hands, he won't dare to kill me. Hurry up and think of a way to leave this place. Try to avoid the other party's people." The petite woman bit her lower lip with her white teeth, nodded heavily, and rushed out of the room. In the entire Dark Shaman clan, this petite woman was undoubtedly the best in terms of concealment ability. She was also the only person in the clan who had thoroughly comprehended the dark domain. However, she met Tan Xiu, an evildoer who could cover hundreds of square meters with his spiritual sense. Along with flashing afterimages, Tan Xiu stopped the petite woman in the corridor on the 4th floor of the building. "You won't be able to escape even if you have wings." Tan Xiu folded his arms and smilingly looked at the petite woman. A disdainful look flashed in the petite woman's eyes. Along with the release of her surging dark force, the tens of meters long corridor was immediately shrouded in a thick black mist. She then bolted lightning fast toward the nearest guest room. "Want to escape?" Along with a sneer, the petite woman had just rushed to the window when an iron pincer-like hand grabbed the back of her neck. The disdainful look on her face froze in an instant. Tan Xiu put his hand into her bosom and took out the red and lifelike Jade Rat. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth as he squeezed her neck and walked outside. A few minutes later, as the door was kicked open, the white-haired youth, the 5 black-robed old men, and the middle-aged man who used to manage the second security station all had their complexions greatly changed. After entering the room with them and the others, Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and glanced at the 6 people in the room. He then casually threw the petite woman in front of the sofa and sat down with one foot on her back. He then looked at the white-haired youth and said, "I've sent those who have threatened me to hell. You dare to threaten me with the Jade Rat? You're really courting death." The white-haired youth's complexion turned ghastly pale. He looked at Tan Xiu and the others, and for the first time, a strong sense of regret was born in his heart. He was well aware of the petite woman's means of escape, yet she failed to escape and was captured by the other party. This showed that the other party was absolutely terrifying to the point that he had to look up to them. The white-haired youth took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "I still have the capital to talk to you." Tan Xiu grinned and said, "Your words have piqued my interest. Tell me, what capital do you have to escape death?" "The Jade Pig," said the white-haired youth in a deep voice. "I know the whereabouts of the Jade Pig." "The Jade Pig?" Tan Xiu's expression slightly changed. His eyes turned into sharp arrows that pierced the white-haired youth's eyes. The white-haired youth subconsciously closed his eyes. "Tell me, where's the Jade Pig?" asked Tan Xiu in a deep voice. The white-haired youth opened his eyes again and said with a solemn expression, "I'll tell you where the Jade Pig is as long as the enmity between us is written off. I'll give you the Jade Rat, and I'll buy the lives of most of the Dark Shaman clan's members for the Jade Pig." Tan Xiu raised his brows and said, "You only need to buy the lives of most of your clan members? You want to use me?" "I'm not using you." The white-haired youth shook his head. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and slowly said, Your lives are worthless in my eyes. All I want is the zodiac jade carvings. To tell you the truth, I would have bought it for $100 million if it weren't for your greed. Alright, tell me the whereabouts of the jade pig. I can spare the lives of most of your Dark Shaman clan's members as long as the information you told me is true, including yours. The white-haired youth slightly calmed down and said, the jade pig is in the hands of my big brother. My original plan was to seize the jade pig after I took complete control of the Dark Shaman clan. I didn't expect that. You failed to deceive me and lost the jade rat instead, asked Tan Xiao. That's right. The white-haired youth nodded bitterly. Tan Xiao squinted his eyes and slowly asked, you know that the zodiac jade carvings are good stuff? The white-haired youth nodded and said, it's a good thing indeed. It contains a huge amount of energy. Our Dark Shaman clan can absorb the energy inside to enhance our strength. What? Tan Xiao stared blankly and looked incredulous. He had yet to figure out how to absorb the energy inside the zodiac jade carvings. Yet, the Dark Shaman clan could do it? He fell into silence. He instantly made up his mind that he must obtain the ability of the Dark Shaman clan no matter what. If he could absorb the energy inside the zodiac jade carvings and use it to enhance his own strength, his cultivation would probably skyrocket. Tell me the method to absorb the energy inside the jade carvings and I'll help you get rid of your big brother and his men. Also, I can give you the $1 billion you need, said Tan Xiao in a deep voice. The white-haired youth was startled and immediately made a gesture to a black-robed old man. The black-robed old man understood tacitly and took out a book from his sleeve pocket. He handed it to Tan Xiao and said, this is the devouring witchcraft art passed down by our Dark Shaman clan's ancestors. The method to absorb the energy inside the jade rat is written in it. Tan Xiao took the book and kicked the petite woman away. He then spent 2 hours carefully reading the entire book. I got it. Suppressing his excitement, Tan Xiao turned to look at Mo Ao and said, contact Hao Lei and tell her to transfer $1 billion to this brat. Also, inform those who have sneaked into Tea Country not to attack the Dark Shaman clan for the time being and wait for my new instructions. Understood. Mo Ao immediately nodded. Tan Xiao shifted to the white-haired youth and then pointed to the sofa in front of him, asking, what's your name? Singluan, answered the white-haired youth. That's a good name. What's your status in your clan? Asked Tan Xiao with a light smile. My father is the Dark Shaman clan's elder, and I'm the clan's second young master, answered the white-haired youth. I was going to kill you, but you not only provided me the whereabouts of the jade pig, but also told me the method to absorb the energy inside the zodiac jade carvings, so I made an exception and changed my mind, said Tan Xiao. Now, tell me about your big brother and the people you want to get rid of. My big brother's name is Sinquo, said Singluan hurriedly. I'll immediately send you the specific information. I don't want $1 billion as long as you can get rid of my big brother and his men. Tan Xiao shook his head and said, I didn't get rid of your big brother to be used by you, but for the sake of that jade pig. I'll send someone to transfer $1 billion to your account, but you must take me to Tea Country immediately. We can talk about anything as long as we get the jade pig. But you know the consequences if you can't get it. I know, replied Singluan respectfully. Tan Xiao nodded and was about to speak when Jin Shi came in from the outside. He quickly leaned to Tan Xiao's ear and whispered, your father is looking for you, boss. Tan Xiao's brows raised. He recalled that his mobile phone was inside his interspatial ring and couldn't receive any signal. He immediately went out of the room and took Jin Shi's mobile phone, saying, Dad, are you looking for me? Tang Yunda's voice came from the phone. I'm afraid I'll have to rely on your help here, Xiao. Also, it's best for you to come here if it's convenient for you. I'm afraid some accidents might happen. Chapter 866. The Zhang family's land in Macau was located in the northern section of Shengluo Avenue. There were many residential areas here, but they were all high-end residential areas. 2 of the villa districts even sandwiched the Zhang family's land in the middle. The Vermilion Gate and the gray walls of the high school, the entire Zhang family occupied an area of more than 10 acres. It could be considered as a tall mansion with an extraordinary grandeur. Goodbye. At the Zhang family's gate, Tang Yunda's expression was a bit unsightly. He just nodded at the people outside to see them off before he hurriedly got into the car and signaled the driver to drive. After a while, the two artists drove away. At this moment, two more figures appeared at the entrance of the Zhang clan. An old man and a young man, both tall and straight like pine trees. One of them was a young man with black shoulder-length hair who was wearing a black training suit. He looked at the two cars that were driving away with a cold glint in his eyes. He disdainfully said, "The Tang family has been in a coma for so many years, yet you still dare to come to our Zhang family and act so arrogantly? You really don't know the meaning of death. If not for the Tang family behind him, I would have killed him today." With his hands behind his back, the old man shook his head and said, "Jin, this Tang Yunda is indeed a waste. He only relies on the protection of the Tang family. After all, the Tang family is one of the top families in the capital. They are very powerful. Even our Zhang family can't compare to the Tang family. There's also that son of his. Although he's not in politics, he's able to create the magnificent Tang Corporation at such a young age. He's not to be underestimated." Zhang Jian sneered, "Grandpa, you don't need to boost others' momentum and belittle our own. Our Zhang family has developed to this point and has a solid foundation. We also have two reliable allies. So what if the Tang family is a top family in the imperial capital? If he angers me, I'll slaughter all of the Tang family's tentacles. And that son of his, with just a small company, did he really think he was so great? I'm going to have a good understanding of this magnificent Tang Corporation after I get some free time. The chicken that lays the golden eggs must be obtained by myself." "Jian, you better not act rashly." The old man narrowed his eyes and silently shook his head before continuing, "Even if our Zhang family isn't afraid of the Tang family, we can't be the first bird to stand out now. The fact that the Tang family was able to annihilate the Yao family meant that they had hidden a lot of armed forces. Only by knowing the enemy and yourself could one emerge victorious in every battle. Otherwise, it will bring danger to our Zhang family." Zhang Jian said, "Grandpa, I know what to do." The old man nodded and said, "Go see Kuda tonight and tell his men to seize the time to act. We must take down those two ports as soon as possible so that it will be more convenient for goods to enter and leave in the future." "All right." Macau, Tongxia District, Island Palace Garden. Inside Villa 058. As soon as Tang Yunda entered the villa, he saw his brother, Chen Anhu, coming out to welcome him. His expression was a bit unsightly as he shook his head and said, "The other party was very polite on the surface, but I didn't see the main character at all. The Zhang family sent out an unimportant character to entertain me. They're really good at playing Tai Chi." Chen Anhu fell into silence for a moment before he bitterly smiled and said, "If it really doesn't work out, then we'll give those two ports to the Zhang family. Although we will suffer great losses, it is still better than being uprooted by the Zhang family." "We won't be uprooted," sneered Tang Yunda. "We don't even need to give them those two ports. Just wait and see. My son happens to be in Macau. I'll ask him for his opinion." Chen Anhu asked, "By the way, why did Tan Xiu come to Macau? Also, what's the origin of the person he asked me to help him find?" "He's looking for the zodiac jade carvings. Someone was too greedy and demanded an exorbitant price, so he personally brought his men to Macau," said Tang Yunda. "The person he asked you to help him find is the one who owns the zodiac jade carvings." "The zodiac jade carvings?" Chen Anhu was surprised. "Is it the zodiac jade carvings that the Grand Fortune Jewelry has been looking for recently?" "Anhu, we're brothers who have been through life and death together, so I don't need to hide it from you," said Tang Yunda smilingly. "The Grand Fortune Jewelry is actually my son's business. He's the one who is looking for the zodiac jade carvings. I don't know his real purpose in looking for the zodiac jade carvings, but he's always been reliable, so the zodiac jade carvings should be of great use to him." "The Grand Fortune Jewelry turns out to be Tan Xiu's?" Chen Anhu was shocked. "How is that possible? You must know that the Grand Fortune Jewelry has been operating in Hong Kong for decades and has been developing rapidly in recent years. Even if its total assets haven't reached 10 billion yuan, it should be close to it, no? How old is your son? On who, there are a lot of things you don't know, said Tang Yunda with a forced smile. In fact, there are a lot of things I don't know about him. But there's one thing I'm afraid you'll know soon. What is it? Asked Qin Anhu curiously. Tang Yunda smiled mysteriously and said, just wait. You'll know it when the time comes. 10 minutes later, a middle-aged man outside strode into the hall on the first floor. He looked at Qin Anhu and said, Boss, there's a guest. He claims to be Tan Xiu, Mr. Tang's son. Qin Anhu immediately got up and smilingly said, let's go and welcome him. Tang Yunda waved his hand and said, Anhu, just tell someone to bring him in. We don't need to go out and greet him personally. Ugh. Qin Anhu thought for a while and immediately smiled. All right, then let Tan Xiu come in. After a while, Tan Xiu entered the room with Mo. He saw his father sitting on the sofa and Qin Anhu, whom he didn't know. He lightly smiled and said, Dad, this is the Uncle Qin you often mentioned, right? Qin Anhu observed Tan Xiu. He got up and smilingly said, what a spirited young man. You're worthy to be Brother Yunda's son. You're a talented young man. I'm Qin Anhu, your dad's sworn brother. Hello, Uncle Qin, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Ever since my dad woke up from his coma, he often talked about you. I'm fortunate to meet you today. You're the real ambitious and ruthless man. Thanks to Uncle Chen's help in finding the Dark Shaman clan. It's just a trivial matter. Qin Anhu waved his hand. After exchanging pleasantries. After they sat down, Tan Xiu finally figured out the cause of the matter. He had never heard of the Zhang family in Macau, but he knew a bit about the Zhao family in the imperial capital. If it weren't for him, the Tang family would be slightly inferior to the Zhao family in the imperial capital. You mean, the leader this time is Kutu from Tea Country? That's right. Qin Anhu nodded and said, it's indeed Kutu from Tea Country. However, I heard that Kutu isn't the real leader. There's a real big shot behind him. I've contacted my friends in Tea Country, but I can't find out who's the big tree behind Kutu. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes. He took out his mobile and dialed a cell number. After the call was connected, he said, I'm afraid I need your help with something. I'll be waiting for you in Tangxia District's Island Palace Garden. All right. He hung up the phone. Tan Xiu then looked at Qin Anhu and his father, Tang Yunda, and smilingly said, it's quite a coincidence that the target I'm looking for this time is someone from Tea Country. Moreover, he seems to have a deep background there. Maybe he can give us some answers. An hour later, the white-haired youth, Xingluan, arrived with a petite woman and 5 black-robed old men. Tan Xiu briefly introduced them. After everyone sat down, he asked, do you know a man named Kudu from Tea Country? Kudu? Which Kudu? Xingluan raised his brows and asked in surprise. We can't find out his specific identity, but he has a deep connection with the Zhang family in Macau, said Tan Xiu. And he's in Macau now. That's right, Uncle Anhu has his photo here. Take a look. Qin Anhu immediately took out his mobile phone and showed Kudu's photo to Xingluan. Xingluan glanced at it and immediately wore a strange expression. Then he said, I know him and I know him very well. I even know him very well. He's a member of my Dark Shaman clan with a different surname. He's also my father's right-hand man. So, your Dark Shaman clan is also involved in colluding with the Zhang family in Macau to plot against us? Tan Xiu sneered. I really don't know about it, Mr. Tang. Xingluan quickly waved his hand. Kudu is my father's confidant, and he usually treats me very well. What happened in Macau has nothing to do with me. Suddenly, this is an opportunity, young master, said the petite woman beside him in a low voice. Xingluan stared blankly and his expression slightly changed. He shot a deep look at the petite woman and then turned to Tan Xiu and said, Mr. Tang, I wonder if you're willing to buy Kudu's life for $1 billion? Are you trying to kill him with a borrowed knife? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. I think it's a fair deal, said Xingluan. Of course, I'm willing to pay you a fortune if you can help me become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he asked with a smile, "How much fortune?" "I don't have any money," said Singluan. "I'm afraid I can't even take out $100 million. But I have treasures. My Dark Shaman clan's treasury has a lot of treasures. As long as you can help me become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, I'm willing to pay you 100 sorcerer stones." "What exactly is this sorcerer stone?" asked Tan Xiu, confused. Singluan turned his hand and took out a coal-like ore. He handed it to Tan Xiu and said, "This is a sorcerer stone. It's the most needed thing for the Dark Shaman clansmen who are proficient in witchcraft. Each sorcerer stone contains a lot of sorcery power. As long as you know the method, you can absorb the sorcery power inside for your own use." The moment Tan Xiu took the sorcerer stone, he could clearly feel the power contained inside. His eyes instantly lit up and his heart was filled with ecstasy. "Sorcerer stone, my ass. This is a demon stone." Tan Xiu tightly gripped the demon stone. It took him a few minutes to absorb less than 1,000th of the magic power inside. His eyes then shifted to Singluan and said, "I have a condition. I'm willing to make a deal with you if you can agree to it." "What condition?" asked Singluan hurriedly. "I need demon stones, which are the sorcerer stones you mentioned," said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. "I'll buy them from you every year from now on. The more the better." Chapter 867. Singluan never dreamed that Tan Xiu would put forward such a condition. Sorcerer Stone was the most important development issue for the Dark Shaman clan. Every member of the clan who wanted to become a powerhouse must consume a lot of Sorcerer Stone every year. Not to mention, the Sorcerer Stone mine under their control had been severely depleted after hundreds of years of mining. The amount of Sorcerer Stone mined each year was also strictly regulated by the clan's ancestral rule. Only 2,000 Sorcerer Stones could be mined each year. As the second young master of the Dark Shaman clan, Singluan could only get 50 Sorcerer Stones every year. Mr. Tang, the Dark Shaman clan does control the Sorcerer Stone mine, but the number of Sorcerer Stones we collect each year is not much. Besides, our clansmen need to cultivate and absorb the sorcery power inside. I'm afraid we can't sell you a lot," said Singluan with a bitter expression. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and said, "We can negotiate and set a number. How about this? I won't make things difficult for you. I'll use other resources to exchange with you as long as your clan sells me 1,000 sorcerer stones every year." 1,000? That's impossible. "Mr. Tang, the total number of sorcerer stones mined by our clan every year is less than that. It's absolutely impossible for you to ask for 1,000 pieces," said Singluan resolutely. "Then, how much do you think is appropriate?" Tan Xiu frowned. 100 pieces. Singluan hesitated for a moment and said, "That's 100 pieces. That's the upper limit our clan can afford. After all, our clansmen still need to cultivate. Our clan will soon fall without Sorcerer Stone. Even if I want to sit on the Patriarch's seat as soon as possible, I can't cut off the hope of our clan." Tan Xiu thought for a moment and said, 50 pills a year in exchange for 730 Sorcerer Stones. That's the bottom line I can afford. Let's have a happy cooperation if you're willing to trade. But if you don't agree, just forget it." "Pills? What's that?" Singluan looked at Tan Xiu with a puzzled expression. At this moment, the eyes of the 5 black-robed old men standing behind Singluan instantly lit up. One of them asked in a deep voice, "Mr. Tang, can you tell us what effect this pill has?" Tan Xiu said, "Spirit Amassing Pill. Every cultivator who consumed the essence-gathering pill would receive many benefits. The exact benefits varied from person to person. You can give it a try." The black-robed old man took a step forward and respectfully said, "Young master, I want to give it a try." Singluan knitted his brows and asked, "What are you going to try? Don't tell me that pill is a miracle pill?" Tan Xiu flicked a pill into the black-robed old man's hand and indifferently said, "Take this pill and cultivate here. I'll give you 4 hours. After 4 hours, no matter how much medicinal power you've absorbed, you must stop and talk about the effects." "All right." When the black-robed old man smelled the intoxicating fragrance, he immediately felt his mind shake and became exceptionally clear. After nodding to Singluan, he sat cross-legged on the ground and directly swallowed the pill. Chen Anhu, who had been quietly watching the conversation between Tan Xiao and Singluan, finally couldn't help but approach Tang Yunda and ask in a low voice, "What are they doing, Brother Yunda? What sorcerer evil stone? What medicinal pill? Also, they're talking about cultivators. Why are they confusing me?" "Xiao is a cultivator," said Tang Yunda in a low voice. "Many of his men are also cultivators." "What?" Chen Anhu's voice suddenly raised a few octaves, attracting the attention of the others in the room. "It's nothing." Chen Anhu hurriedly waved his hand when he felt Tang Yunda pulling him. He returned to Tang Yunda's side and excitedly asked, "You're not lying to me, are you, Brother Yunda? Your son is actually a cultivator? How is that possible? A cultivator? That's a celestial being. We've risked our lives many times in the past, yet we've only met a cultivator once." "There's no deceit between us brothers," said Tang Yunda in a low voice. "Xiao is really a cultivator, and a very powerful one at that. You should have heard of that Amur tiger, right? He was killed by Xiao because he helped the Yao family in the imperial capital to deal with our Tang family. However, you must keep this matter to yourself. You can't tell anyone about it." "Don't worry." Chen Anhu firmly nodded and guaranteed. "I won't say anything even if someone puts a knife to my neck. That's amazing. It's really amazing. That Amur tiger is famous all over the country. Who doesn't know how powerful and terrifying he is? I didn't expect that he would be killed by my nephew. No wonder you said that you're looking for external help in Macau. So that's how it is." "Low-key," said Tang Yunda with a chuckle. Yes. Chen Anhu rubbed his hands and looked at Tan Xiao with fiery eyes. Time fleeted by. Half an hour later, the black-robed old man, who was sitting cross-legged and desperately absorbing the medicinal efficacy of the pill, suddenly burst out with a surging aura. A layer of black mist visible to the naked eye shrouded him in an instant. He broke through? The other 4 black-robed old men looked incredulous with intense envy in their eyes. They never imagined that the medicinal efficacy of the spirit-amassing pill would be so strong. It had only been half an hour, yet his second brother broke through. They all knew that their second brother had just broken through to his previous realm a year ago. Singluan and the petite woman were also shocked. They also knew about the black-robed old man's situation. 3.5 hours later, the black-robed old man's complexion turned red and he crazily coughed up a mouthful of blood. An even more surging aura erupted from his body again. A large amount of black mist spread out again. If it wasn't for Tan Xiao waving his hand to block it, the entire room would have been shrouded by the black mist. "What's going on?" Singluan hurriedly called out. The 4 black-robed old men, on the other hand, were dumbfounded and the disbelief on their faces turned more intense. Did he break through again? He broke through 2 levels in just 3.5 hours? Was this pill really an immortal pill? "Stop, second brother." After a while, one of the black-robed old men shouted in a deep voice. The black-robed old man, who was sitting cross-legged in cultivation, opened his eyes and raised his arm to wipe the blood on the corner of his mouth. After floating up, he cupped his fists toward Tan Xiao and said, "Mr. Tang's pill is definitely a legendary immortal pill. Even if my big brother didn't ask me to stop, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to continue cultivating. In such a short period of time, I made successive breakthroughs, and I could even feel that the medicinal power of that pill had not been completely absorbed and refined by me. I have a feeling that I'll be able to break through another level if I fully absorb and refine the medicinal efficacy of the pill." Hiss! The other 4 black-robed old men couldn't help but gasp after hearing it. Singluan wasn't an idiot. He could tell from the reaction of the black-robed old man who took the essence-amassing pill, coupled with what they said, that this pill given by Tang Xiao was definitely an immortal treasure. "It's a deal, Mr. Tang." Singluan realized that he had really clung onto someone's thigh. He even realized that cultivators were indeed as magical and powerful as the legend said. If he could completely cling onto a cultivator's thigh in the future, the benefits he would get would be far more than what he could see now. Suddenly, Singluan recalled something and waited inwardly for a moment. Then he said in a deep voice, "Mr. Tang, I'm willing to go with Kuda since he wants to make things difficult for Uncle and Uncle Chen. If he dares to be arrogant, you don't need to say anything and I'll clean him up myself." Tan Xiao squinted his eyes. With his experience, he could tell from Singluan's words that this guy wanted to establish a friendship with him. Tan Xiao naturally wouldn't reject someone who could bring him benefits. He lightly smiled and said, "No problem. We'll go to tea country together after we deal with the matters here. However, there's something I need to figure out first. How are you going to deal with your big brother and father?" "My big brother must die because we've reached the point of life and death," said Singluan. "But my father has always been good to me, and I don't want him to get hurt. It's best to make him hand over all the power in his hands and retire somewhere." "If you tell me that you want to kill your father, I'll probably kill you after I deal with the matter in tea country," said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. "My friends, Tan Xiao, can only be good people. They can't be inhumane people. It's obvious that you're not one of them. I hope we can get along well in the future." "Definitely." Singluan nodded and replied with a serious expression. Tan Xiao then looked at Tang Yunda and smilingly said, "Dad, you don't need to go there again since you've already been to the Zhangs. Let Uncle Chen accompany me on this trip. I promise I'll solve this matter in 3 days at the latest." Tang Yunda and Chen Anhu exchanged glances before the former nodded and said, "All right, then. Anhu, you go with Xiao. I'll feel more at ease with you following him." "No problem," said Shin Anhu with a smile. At the north end of Shengluo Avenue, at the entrance of the Zhang family's residence, 6 black SUVs had just stopped when more than a dozen Zhang family's security guards rushed inside. The stalwart man who took the lead shouted, "Who the hell are you people? This is a private residence, so you can't park your car here." Bam, bam, bam. The doors of the 6 cars opened one after another as the stalwart men came out. After Tan Xiao and Chen Anhu came out of the car, Tan Xiao then said with a smile, "This entrance of the Zhang family is quite imposing. It seems that the Zhangs are one of the top families in Macau, no?" "Not exactly, but it's not a problem for them to be in the top 10. Chen Anhu shook his head. "It's just that the Zhangs have always been very arrogant, and their residence is also very imposing." "Hee hee." Tan Xiao chuckled twice. He then looked at the vigilant man and said, "Go inform them that Tan Xiao has come to visit." Chapter 868. The big man of the Zhang family had extraordinary eyesight. He could sense that these people's auras were extraordinary. Therefore, he quickly used the intercom to report the situation outside to the captain in charge of the family's security issues. Inside the mansion, the Zhang family's patriarch, Zhang Pinqin, was looking at a calligraphy painting in his study. Beside him was the most outstanding genius of the Zhang family's new generation, Zhang Wendi, who was also his grandson. "What do you think of this calligraphy painting?" Zhang Pinqin reluctantly moved his eyes away from the painting and looked at his grandson. "This calligraphy painting is just a string of numbers in my opinion," said Zhang Wendi indifferently. "The longer the number, the better it is. Grandpa, you just need to tell me how much money I can get from selling this calligraphy painting." "Wendi, there are many things that can't be measured with money." Zhang Pinqin shook his head and forced a smile. "Don't look at the problem with such an indifferent attitude. I can tell you that money is just a string of numbers. 100 million and 100 billion are no different in my eyes. Money can make our Zhang family stronger and stronger," said Zhang Wendi seriously. "It seems that my teaching you all these years has really gone wrong." Zhang Pinqin sighed helplessly. "You don't look like a 20-year-old kid anymore, but more like a businessman who stinks of money. You're strict and ruthless in pursuing your own interests. Alas, this may be a good thing for our Zhang family, but for you." "I think it's good, Grandpa," said Zhang Wendi indifferently. Knock, knock. The open door was knocked. The security captain, Zhang Wenjin, came and reported in a deep voice, "Uncle, Wendi, someone has come to our Zhang family. He claims that he's Tan Xiao." Tan Xiu? Surname Tang? Zhang Pinqin squinted his eyes and looked at Zhang Wendy, asking, do you think we should greet him with a smile? Or should we drive him away? It's really interesting today, said Zhang Wendy with a grin. The Tang family is really strange. The famous young divine doctor? The magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss? The Tang family's young master? With so many halos shrouding him, I really want to see him. Since you want to see him, then I'll leave this matter to you, said Zhang Pinqin indifferently. However, remember to quickly make arrangements for the Kudu Royal City and take down those 2 ports as quickly as possible. If they really don't want to give up, I will pay a visit to the highest official of Hong Kong. You just have to kill them all. All right. Zhang Wendy casually agreed and followed Zhang Wenjin out of the room. 10 minutes later, in one of the courtyards of the Zhang family, Zhang Wendy sat in front of a stone table, quietly sipping tea. As a group of people arrived, his gaze fell on Tan Xiu, who was at the forefront. After looking at it for a few seconds, a look of disdain flashed across Zhang Wendy's face. She looked at the teapot again. Very arrogant. Tan Xiu went straight to the opposite side of Zhang Wendy. After sitting down, he grabbed the teapot and poured himself a cup of fragrant tea. After taking a sip, he indifferently said, I thought I could taste the real good tea from young Master Zhang, but I didn't expect that the taste of this tea is just so. Young Master Zhang, Zhang Wendy? Can I ask you a question? You? Anger flashed in Zhang Wendy's eyes. Just as he opened his mouth to say a word, Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him. Tan Xiu pretended to be curious and asked, my question is very simple, and I'm sure you can answer it. Listen well, my question is, do your parents know that you're so arrogant? Zhang Wendy slapped the stone table. Killing intent flashed in his eyes as he coldly said, Surname Tang, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't speak irresponsibly. This is not your Tang family in the imperial capital, but my Zhang family in Macau. Can I interpret it as threatening me? Tan Xiu asked with a faint smile. So what if I threaten you? Zhang Wendy coldly replied. I can easily make you stay inside my Zhang family's door forever if I want to. What a fool! Tan Xiu shook his head. Then he waved to Xingluan and said with a faint smile, You're a distinguished guest invited by me, so don't stand far away from me like the others. To be honest, the tea of the Zhang family is very ordinary. But don't care about the taste in this hot day. Just drink a few mouthfuls to quench your thirst. Xingluan walked to the stone table with a smile and took a seat. He copied Tan Xiu's style and poured himself a cup of tea. After drinking it, he pursed his lips and said, You're right, Mr. Tang. Even if I know nothing about the tea ceremony and don't like to drink tea, I can still taste that this tea is really not good. The Zhang family in Macau is a big family, yet they treat their guests with such a stingy attitude. It's really unexpected. Who the hell are you? Zhang Wendy angrily shouted. Talk to Mr. Tang if you have something to say. Xingluan waved his hand. In the words of your Huaxia country, I'm just a bystander, a hired thug. Zhang Wendy abruptly got up with a smile on his handsome face. As time passed by, the smile on his face became more and more intense. Finally, he burst into laughter and said, not bad at all. No one has ever dared to be so arrogant in front of me since I can remember. This Tan Xiu has a good life since he has the Tang family's protection. But I want to know, who do you have to protect you? If not, you won't be able to leave here alive even if Tan Xiu is here. Clap, clap, clap. At this moment, the sound of applause came from outside the courtyard gate. A middle-aged man with a stocky build was clapping his hands as he led a dozen strong men into the courtyard. Young Master Zhang is right. If you want to be arrogant, you must have a strong background. Those who have no background and strength will eventually be struck to death by lightning. Xingluan's eyes turned cold. He didn't even need to turn his head to recognize the owner of the voice. With his back facing the man, he sneered and said, I don't know if my background is strong or not. Why don't you tell me what my background is like? You could have furrowed his brows. He vaguely felt that the voice was familiar. Xingluan turned his head and looked at Kudu, who was approaching step by step. He then sneered and said, "You haven't answered my question yet. Is my background strong or not? Can he be mentioned in the same breath as you?" Kudu's body shook and disbelief flashed in his eyes. He never dreamed that he would meet the family's second young master here. If it was in the past, he might not have taken this second young master seriously. But now, he knew very well that the patriarch had begun to assess the two young masters. Whoever was stronger would be the patriarch in the future. Furthermore, the most important thing was that the patriarch valued this second young master more after learning about him a few days ago. The possibility of him becoming the patriarch in the future was very high. Second young master. Kudu squeezed out a smile and stepped forward to greet him. "How can I dare to answer you calling me second young master?" Singluan sneered. "I don't have the strength to act like a pretentious prick. My dark shaman clan is even weaker. I'm afraid I'll be struck by lightning if I boast here. But I really admire your arrogant and domineering attitude. You're really amazing. I didn't know it was you just now, second young master, so I said some disrespectful words to you. I hope you don't mind it," said Kudu awkwardly. "The Zhangs are our dark shaman clan's allies, so..." Singluan snorted coldly. Zhang Wendi was shocked. He never expected that the brat who came with Tan Xiu would turn out to be the dark shaman clan's second young master. He had seen the eldest young master of the dark shaman clan before, but it was his first time seeing this second young master. He heard that the dark shaman clan's second young master was a ruthless and very talented young man. He had gained control of some of the dark shaman clan's forces by relying on his own means and was recognized by some of the clan's elders. But how did he get involved with Tan Xiu? "I'm in trouble." Zhang Wendi shot a deep look at Tan Xiu and said in a deep voice, "Is inviting the dark shaman clan's second young master your trump card?" "Why would I, Tan Xiu, need a trump card to deal with such a trivial matter?" asked Tan Xiu back. "You don't need one?" Zhang Wendi sneered. "Your father came here today and eventually left with his tail between his legs. Do you think you're more powerful than your father? Let's not talk about these useless things." Tan Xiu shook his head. "Let your Zhang family's patriarch come forward. I'll give you a chance. It's up to you whether you can grasp it or not." "Just you?" Zhang Wendi sneered. "You're not qualified to let my grandpa see you." Tan Xiu was silent for a moment. After drinking a cup of tea, he indifferently said, "Will your grandpa come out to see me immediately after I kill you?" Whoosh! Jin Shi's figure flickered lightning fast and instantly dashed out from the crowd not far away. His sword flashed and went straight to Zhang Wendi's throat. "Bastard!" An aged voice thundered like a clap of thunder as a senile old man instantly appeared in front of Zhang Wendi. He held a 2-foot-long axe in his hand and roared as he formed layers of axe shadows that blocked Jin Shi's sword attack. Puff! The senile old man's body suddenly shook and he staggered backward. Fortunately, Zhang Wendi was quick to react and instantly supported his back, preventing him from flying backward and falling down. However, the old man spurted out a mouthful of blood that was particularly dazzling to the eyes of all the Zhang family members present. "Continue." Tan Xiu's voice was very calm. The old man raised his arm to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth and shouted, "Hold on. I have something to say." "What do you want to say?" Tan Xiu lightly said. "Don't beg for mercy. That's just a waste of time and saliva. Since you want to see my Zhang family's patriarch, I'll immediately notify him to come out and see you," said the old man in a deep voice. "Let's not use force to solve the problem that can be discussed at the negotiation table. To put it bluntly, we're all pursuing benefits and wealth." Tan Xiu glanced at the old man and smilingly said, "You're afraid, aren't you, old geezer? It's no wonder, though. After all, you've broken through the threshold of martial arts grandmaster and reached a higher level, yet you can't even withstand 50% or 60% of my strength. You must be scared, right?" Chapter 869. The Zhang family's old man's face turned red and a look of humiliation flashed in his eyes. He was a martial arts grandmaster of his generation. Even those martial arts grandmasters had to be respectful to him, So how could he be mocked and ridiculed by such a young guy? But he knew that Tan Xiu was right. He was indeed frightened because the guy he just fought was much stronger than him, be it in terms of strength or speed. If it wasn't for the burning sensation coming from his internal organs and the stifling and uncomfortable feeling in his chest, he wouldn't have believed that the other party could be so strong. Even if the other party started cultivating in his mother's womb, it was impossible for him to be so strong. Who is he? The Zhang family's old man shot a deep look at Jinshi and then turned his head and asked. What's the point of asking this question now? Asked Tan Xiu faintly. As the saying goes, a powerful dragon cannot suppress a local snake. But I don't believe it. Your Zhang family is very strong in Macau, but I'm going to suppress you until you have no temper. Whoosh, whoosh, as Tan Xiu's voice faded, Jinshi's figure flashed again and instantly pounced toward the Zhang family's old man. At the same time, Shueisha also acted at the same time. His figure instantly appeared in front of Zhang Wendi and a Mitsubishi army knife appeared in his hand out of thin air. The tip of the knife then swept toward Zhang Wendi's throat. Stop! Two middle-aged men rushed out of the crowd. One of them moved lightning fast to block Zhang Wendi, while the other pounced toward Shueisha from the side. Puff, 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 the Zhang family's old man was bombarded by dozens of punches. His old body was like a fallen leaf as he flew backward. As for the two middle-aged men, they were instantly drenched in blood, and horrifying wounds covered their entire bodies. While protecting Zhang Wendi, they were barely able to avoid hitting their vital parts. Done. Tan Xiu took out a half-pack of cigarettes, lit one and threw the rest to Xingluan. He came to the Zhang family this time to solve the problem, not to start a massacre. Jinshi didn't attack again and went straight back behind Tan Xiu. Shueisha, on the other hand, pursed his lips and said, "Just kill these rookies, boss. As long as you say the word, we'll slaughter the entire Zhang family." In the past, we often did things like exterminating sections. Tan Xiu's expression turned cold as he said, "If you want to exterminate a sect, then get the hell out of the country. Don't cause trouble for me in the country." Shueisha took a few steps back in embarrassment and no longer spoke amidst the strange laughter of Jinshi and the others. Tan Xiu shifted to the pale and fearful Zhang Wendi and indifferently said, "Arrogance? You must have the capital to back it up. You are arrogant in front of me, and your Zhang clan is arrogant in front of me. You are stupid to the extreme. My father is soft-hearted and doesn't want to fall out with your Zhang family. But I'm different. If you annoy me, I only need to nod my head and all the Zhangs will be slaughtered. 3 minutes. I'll give you 3 minutes. If your Zhang family's patriarch doesn't appear in front of me within 3 minutes, then you don't need to show yourself." Zhang Wendi looked at the 3 elders of his family who were covered with scars and finally realized how terrifying Tan Xiu was. Almost without hesitation, he shouted, "Go and invite my grandpa here at once." "No need." Zhang Pinqin strode into the courtyard under the escort of more than a dozen Zhangs. His pupils suddenly shrunk when he saw the situation in the courtyard. He dashed to the seriously injured old man, supported him and asked, "Second brother, are you all right?" The old man shook his head and forced a smile. "The injury is very serious, but it's not fatal. Big brother, they are too strong." Zhang Pinqin turned to look at Tan Xiu and said in a deep voice, "You're Tan Xiu of the Tang family, right? Are you trying to bully my Zhang family just because the Tang family is powerful?" "You can say that," Tan Xiu said lightly. "I'm bullying your Zhang family. What can you do to me? I'll accompany you to play if you want to fight." Zhang Pinqin didn't expect that Tan Xiu would be so arrogant, but he was well aware of the strength of his second brother and 2 nephews. Yet, they were seriously injured at this moment, which meant that the other party was even stronger. "Cut the hiyami. Tan Xiu said lightly. "I don't intend to kill anyone in your Zhang family this time. However, you dare to threaten us, so I won't let this matter go. Tell me, how do you plan to compensate us?" "Compensate?" Zhang Pinqin was shaken inwardly and asked in a deep voice, "What do you mean?" "The Zhangs want those 2 ports, but they are the properties of my father and Uncle Chen." Tan Xiu sneered. "Tell me, Uncle Chen, Isn't the Zhongs very arrogant? Did I traumatize all of you? Do you want some compensation for the mental damage you suffered? Chen Anhu, who had just been shocked by the fierce battle, looked at the indifferent expression on Tan Xiu's face. He finally realized why his brother, Tang Yunda, invited his son over. Tan Xiu had a lot of powerful experts following him. However, recalling the power the Zhongs had in Macau, he opened his mouth and finally forced a wry smile and said, "Forget about the mental damage compensation, Tan Xiu. Just forget it as long as the Zhongs don't have any ideas about our 2 ports." "Is that so?" A faint smile appeared on Tan Xiu's face. Zhang Pinqin looked at the docile Ku, who was standing silently not far away, and said in a deep voice, "Kutu, aside from my Zhang family, your dark shaman clan also needs those 2 ports. What's wrong? They are bullying my Zhang family now, and you're just going to watch." Kuta glanced at Xingluan and let out a dry smile. "Zhang Patriarch, we may be allies, but my second young master is here, so I don't have the right to speak." "Second young master? The second young master of the Dark Shaman clan, Xingluan?" Zhang Pinqin glanced at the crowd and his eyes finally landed on the white-haired Xingluan. "I'm just Mr. Tang's hatchet man today," said Xingluan indifferently. "Whoever dares to go against Mr. Tang is going against me, Xingluan. The Zhongs may be an ally of my Dark Shaman clan, but not mine. So I hope your Zhang family will lower their stance to the lowest level else. Xingluan, do you think you can be the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan?" Zhang Pinqin angrily shouted. He grabbed his mobile and was about to call the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, Kelda. "Zhang Patriarch, you must think about it clearly," said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "Once you make this call, it's tantamount to shedding all pretense of cordiality with me. I don't know if your Zhang family can bear the consequences." Zhang Pinqin's expression turned stiff. His finger hovered over the dial button, but he didn't press it in the end. He then turned to look at Tan Xiu and said in a deep voice, "You want my Zhang family to bow down to you? You'll have to defeat the strongest expert of my family. I'll tell you in advance that my Zhang family's ancestor has lived for 206 years and his cultivation has reached the acme of perfection. Even martial arts grandmasters are nothing but ants in front of him. If we can defeat your Zhang family's ancestor, does it mean that your family will agree to any conditions I put forward?" asked Tan Xiu with a smile. A disdainful look flashed in Zhang Pinqin's eyes as he proudly said, "That's right. If you can defeat my family's strongest ancestor, we won't hesitate even if you ask us to cede our land and compensate you." "Big brother," the seriously injured old man hurriedly called out. "You don't need to say anything more." Zhang Pinqin raised his hand and sneered. "Our Zhang family can cut off our heads and bleed, but we will never accept such humiliation." "Clap, clap," Tan Xiu applauded and sighed. "You're really bold, Zhang family's patriarch. We accept your conditions. Let your Zhang family's ancestor appear. As long as we lose, not only will we immediately leave the Zhang family, but we'll also compensate your family. Whether it's money or the 2 ports, we'll immediately give it to you." At the side, Chen Anhu's expression greatly changed and he hurriedly said, "Tan Xiu this." Tan Xiu raised his hand and indifferently said, "Uncle Chen, if you trust me, then let me handle this matter. You're my father's brother, so I won't let you suffer a loss no matter what the outcome is." Chen Anhu's expression changed and he angrily said, "What the hell are you talking about? I'm your father's brother, so my things are your father's. Since you've made up your mind, then do whatever you want to do. If worst comes to worst, we'll compensate you with the 2 ports." Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and looked at Mo All, saying, "You can play with them later." "Understood." Mo All respectfully nodded. 10 minutes later, an old man with a shaved head and dressed in white training clothes walked in from outside. He was thin, but his eyes were bright and full of expression. After he entered the courtyard, his eyes were locked on Mo All and the others. "Interesting, very interesting." The old man smiled and said, "I haven't seen such an interesting thing for hundreds of years. I originally thought that no one in this world would dare to challenge me except for those special people. But I never thought that I would bump into some extremely bold kids today." A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. He looked at the old man and said, I didn't expect that the Zhang family's ancestor would be so gifted and enter the Dao through martial arts, stepping into the foundation establishment stage. You should be the one with the highest attainment in martial arts I've ever met. The old man's expression turned particularly solemn as he looked at Tan Xiu and asked, You know about the foundation establishment stage? Or you? Tan Xiu lightly smiled and said, Don't put on a strange look. You don't need to know who I am right now. You only need to know that if you lose, you must restrain your zhangs. You're a frog in a well, but don't be so arrogant and domineering. I can't see how powerful you are, but it's meaningless to play the hero with your mouth. The old man snorted coldly. Make your move. Let me see your strength. Tan Xiu smiled and said, You're not qualified to make me publish a book. I'll accompany him to play. Mo strode forward and exuded a surging aura. He cupped his fists and said, Since my boss said that I can't kill you directly, then I can only play with you according to the rules of martial arts. Old geezer, don't blame me for not reminding you to use your strongest strength, else you'll lose all your face if you lose. Chapter 870. The ancestor of the Zhang family, Zhang Hongding, had a pair of torch-like eyes. He could easily judge that the aura exuded by Mo was stronger than what he could unleash. The oppressive feeling brought by this aura made him put away his contempt. Young man, you must maintain the virtue of respecting the old and loving the young. As Zhang Hongding's voice faded away, he turned into an afterimage and dashed to the front of Mo, throwing dozens of punches in a second. The dull sound of fists colliding made most of the onlookers' complexions slightly change. Among them, Chen Anhu was the most shocked. He used to be one of the top special forces soldiers in the country. He had gone through a hail of bullets, braved through life and death countless times, and encountered countless experts. Yet, he had never encountered such a terrifying existence, who was even more powerful than those martial arts experts he saw in the movies. A few seconds later, Zhang Hongding retreated 7 or 8 steps with blue veins bulging on his old face and disbelief in his eyes. The gray coat on his chest had been torn and a clear fist mark could be seen on it. Mo looked calm and composed as he contemptuously glanced at Zhang Hongding. Then, he came to Tan Xiu and respectfully said, This old geezer lost, boss. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and gently flicked his fingers. Then, he followed Mo to the side and indifferently said, How about it? Do you think it's necessary to continue? Zhang Hongding shook his head bitterly. Although the fight between him and Mo was only a few seconds and others might not be able to see the crux of the problem, he was very clear that he lost very miserably. Had Mo wanted to kill him just now, he would have had at least several chances to take his life. I lost. Zhang Hongding looked at Mo with a complicated expression. He then turned to Tan Xiu and sighed, It's a complete loss, and this old man accepts it wholeheartedly. Young man, tell me your purpose in coming to my Zhang family. Tan Xiu got up and applauded with a smile. Things are much easier since you admit your loss. Zhang family head, do you still keep your words? With humiliation in his eyes, Zhang Pinqin coldly said, You lost the bet. Tell me your conditions. Tan Xiu's face turned cold and he said in a deep voice, Your Zhang family is not allowed to have any designs on those 2 ports starting from today. Within 3 days, transfer at least 2 of the ports that your Zhang family owns to me. Consider it as compensation for Uncle Chen Anhu's emotional distress. Zhang Pinqin clenched his fists and said in a deep voice, I promise you. Tan Xiu sneered and said, I only want your 2 ports this time. But all of you from the Zhang family, remember this. You'd better find out clearly before you plot against others. I don't care if you provoke others, but if you provoke someone I care about, I'll wipe out your entire clan. His voice fell. A surging momentum surged out of Tang Xiu's body as a long sword appeared out of thin air in his hand. Countless people in the courtyard felt a suffocating oppressive feeling as Tang Xiu brandished his sword and slashed toward the 3-story Western-style building in the north. Boom! The sword chi crisscrossed and the sword light was like a rainbow. The magnificent three-story building was split in half in an instant, and then it collapsed with a loud bang, causing a cloud of dust to fly everywhere. Hiss! The Zhang family's ancestor, Zhang Hongding, shivered amidst the gasps. He looked at Tan Xiu with eyes full of fear. That aura, that strength. Zhang Hongding clearly realized that Tan Xiu's attainments in martial arts were at least several levels higher than his own. It was very likely that Tan Xiu was a cultivator, and the weakest among them was at the golden core stage. He realized that if the person he just fought with was Tan Xiu could have easily slapped him to death. Tan Xiu was very satisfied with the Zhang's horror. He had achieved his goal of establishing his might and prestige, so he didn't feel like staying here any longer. His eyes shifted to Kudu from Tea Country and indifferently said, "Go back to Tea Country as soon as possible. Remember to tell your Dark Shaman clan's patriarch that I'll personally visit you in a few days." Understood. Despite being a very powerful wizard, Kutu didn't dare to show the slightest disrespect in front of Tan Xiu. The sword strike Tan Xiu displayed just now sent a chill down his spine. He was perfectly aware that he was absolutely not a match for Tan Xiu. Even the patriarch of his clan might not necessarily be a match for Tan Xiu. On the way back, Chen Anhu felt like he was dreaming. The problem that had been giving him a headache recently was easily solved by Tan Xiu. Furthermore, he didn't even dare to think that he could snatch 2 ports from the Zhangs. It must be noted that the ports occupied by the Zhangs were very good places, which would be of great help to expand their business in the future and earn more money. Tang Xiu, do you think your Uncle Chen can become as powerful as you? Chen Anhu couldn't help but ask while looking at Tan Xiu, who had his eyes closed and didn't speak. Tan Xiu shook his head and said with a smile, "Uncle Chen, if you could be 20 years younger, there might still be hope in the future. But now, you can cultivate your body and mind and practice some martial arts that can prolong your life. How about this? I'll stay at your place for a day and teach you some things." Chen Anhu was pleasantly surprised and said, "Good, good, good. Uncle Chen will welcome you with open arms." Tan Xiu smiled and turned to look out of the window. The environment of Macau was very good. He actually liked it here, especially the sunny beach. It reminded him of the dream he had when he was in school and when he saw the sunny beach on TV. That was, one day, he would be able to go to that kind of place to play. Haha, I was really childish back then. Tan Xiu couldn't help but laugh. Just as he was about to look away, his expression suddenly changed. Almost in an instant, he opened the door and rushed out. "Stop the car." Chen Anhu, who was sitting next to Tan Xiu, felt his heart in his throat. Looking at the empty seat and the open and closed door, he was extremely nervous. He couldn't figure out why Tan Xiu was courting death. What's the situation now? The speed of the car is at least about 100 kilometers. Did he just open the door and rush out? Creak. The car quickly stopped on the side of the road. Chen Anhu hurriedly moved to the place where Tan Xiu was just sitting. Looking out the window, he suddenly became dumbfounded. He saw Tang Xiu dashing toward the beach not far away, just like a martial arts expert in the movies performing his lightness skill. What's over there? 2 kilometers away, more than a dozen youths dressed in fancy clothes surrounded 2 people in the middle. These 2 people had bruised noses and swollen faces, and there were traces of blood at the corners of their mouths. It was obvious that they had been beaten very badly. They were Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong, who came to Macau for a vacation. "Call your family and ask them to give us money. 1 cent less, I'll cut off one of your hands. 2 cents less, I'll cut off your limbs." A young man with dyed red hair, wearing earrings, and a toothpick in the corner of his mouth looked like a gangster. He pointed a baseball bat at the 2 and shouted arrogantly. "Bah!" Hu Qingsong spat out a mouthful of blood. He fiercely glared at the red-haired man and shouted, "I don't have money, but I'll give you my life. Cut off my limbs if you have the guts." Yu Kai struggled to get up from the ground. He grabbed Hu Qingsong's arm and hurriedly shouted, "Old Hu, don't show off. Big brothers, it's all our fault. We didn't know that those 2 beauties were your people. 100,000 yuan is too much for us. Let them loan us. I'm afraid that even our families can't afford it. What do you think? 50,000 yuan. We'll call them immediately and try to give you 50,000 yuan as soon as possible." Yu Kai, Why are you giving in to these bastards? Hu Qingsong angrily retorted. They want to mess with me? But I want to drag them down with me. Yu Kai interrupted him and angrily yelled, Are you done yet? A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him, don't you? They don't have many people, but they're all good fighters. You can continue to show off if you can knock them all down, but shut up if you can't. Hu Qingsong opened his mouth and finally turned his face to the side unwillingly. He was very good at fighting, and even a few common hooligans were not his match. But this time, they really kicked an iron plate. These dozen guys were all martial artists. Although they dressed like hooligans, their skills were really good. At the very least, he didn't have the confidence to knock them down if he were to fight them alone. Yu Kai endured the pain in his body and grabbed his mobile. After thinking for a while, he immediately found a number and dialed it. Ring, ring, ring. The ringtone of his mobile made Yu Kai stare blankly. It was because the sound coming from his mobile phone and the ringtone coming from nearby were too coincidental. It was as if he was dialing right in front of him. Following the ringtone, he turned his head and looked at the source. An incredulous look immediately appeared on his swollen and bruised face. Big Bro Tang? Yu Kai rubbed his eyes hard, thinking that his vision was blurred from the beating just now. Tan Xiao, who was standing more than 10 meters away from the group of people, had already taken out a cigarette and lit it up. He had clearly heard Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong's threats. As everyone's eyes looked at him, Tan Xiao slowly walked over. Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong's bruised and swollen faces, as well as the blood on the corners of their mouths, made him angry inwardly. Yet, he didn't show any expression on his face and instead revealed a smile. You two are having fun, aren't you? Yu Kai finally confirmed that the person was Tan Xiao and called out in ecstasy, Big Bro Tang, why are you here? You can be here, so why can't I be here? Tan Xiao said. What's going on? Did you two come here to have fun? Or were you kidnapped? Hu Qingsong also clearly saw Tan Xiao. His rough face was full of embarrassment. The feeling of making a fool of himself made him want to find a hole to burrow into. Upon hearing Tan Xiao's inquiry, his lips squirmed a few times as he braced himself and said, Big Bro Tang, we came here to travel, but these bastards set us up. Tell me, how did they set you up? Tan Xiao said with a smile. The red-haired youth raised the baseball bat in his hand and pointed at Tan Xiao with a strange smile. Whoa, Big Bro Tang? It turns out that you're the big bro of these two brats. What's up? Did you come here to deliver money? Or did you come here to be abused together with them? Chapter 871. Tan Xiao looked at the red-haired youth with a strange expression. Amidst the mocking laughter, he was about to speak when he suddenly saw two beautiful girls in bikinis and sunglasses coming over. Their figures were quite good and their skin was very fair. Tan Xiao also noticed that Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong swallowed their saliva at the same time. What a bunch of good-for-nothings. Tan Xiao was at a loss whether to cry or laugh as he asked, Did you two fall into some kind of immortal trap? In an instant, Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong blushed at the same time. Seeing that Tan Xiao ignored him, the red-haired youth immediately shouted angrily, Brat, you're fucking crazy, aren't you? This father is talking to you, yet you dare to act like a pretentious prick in front of me? Tan Xiao raised his brows and said, I won't bother to deal with you if you provoke others. But these two are my buddies, yet they were beaten up by you. Let's settle this account. As for whether or not I'm arrogant, whether or not I'm just showing off, you'll see soon enough. After saying that, Tan Xiao strode to the front of the red-haired youth and fiercely slapped his face. After slapping the red-haired youth to the ground, he looked at the other dozens of youths who wanted to make a move and shouted in a deep voice, Think about it. Once you fight with me, the consequences will be very serious. Imposing manner. It instantly overwhelmed everyone present. The complexions of the dozens of youths who wanted to make a move slightly changed. Although they were not big shots and didn't have much experience, they still had the eyesight. The imposing manner displayed by Tan Xiao made them faintly realize that this young man in front of them was probably not ordinary. Whoa, who's this handsome guy? So handsome, If he pursues me, I'll definitely agree immediately. After the two girls in bikinis approached, they looked at Tan Xiu's handsome face and grinned as they called out. Even one of the more courageous and thick-skinned girls came to Tan Xiu and reached out to pinch Tan Xiu's arm. Put. Tang Xiu directly slapped the two girls' faces and slapped them to the beach. Then he coldly snorted and said, "You two are the instigators who caused my two brothers to be beaten. So I'll slap each of you to teach you a lesson. Don't play those immortal tricks again in the future." The red-haired young man struggled to get up from the beach. He covered his face and looked at Tan Xiu in disbelief. Anger exploded in his chest. "Are you all fucking stupid? Beat him to death." 100 meters away, Mo and the others dashed over. In just a few seconds, they rushed to the vicinity of Tan Xiu. The moment those hooligans pounced on Tan Xiu, Mo and the others directly made their move. After a series of punches and kicks, more than a dozen gangsters were all beaten to the ground. Hiss! The red-haired youth finally realized that he seemed to have provoked a powerful person. The martial arts of these robust men that suddenly appeared were too powerful. He also knew martial arts. He had been training in the Jingzhen martial arts school for nearly a decade. Even if 5 or 6 young and strong men joined hands, they would still be no match for him. These brothers around him had also been training with him in the Jingzhen martial arts school for 5 or 6 years. Usually, it wouldn't be a problem for one of them to fight 2 or 3 people. However, these dozens of brothers were all beaten down in less than 10 seconds, indicating that these big men were all powerful characters. "You? Who the hell are you?" The red-haired youth retreated a few steps and asked with a vigilant face. Tan Xiu ignored him and looked at Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong instead, asking, "What do you think we should do next? Should we cripple them? Or should we directly kick them out?" "Beat them up and let us vent our anger," said Yu Kai aloud. Hu Qingsong's expression was a bit strange. After being silent for more than 10 seconds, he reached out to pull Yu Kai, shook his head and said, "Kick them out. This time, we were indeed careless and fell into their tricks. I'll remember today's lesson so that I can be more vigilant in the future." "Yu Kai, there's no need to lower yourself to the same level as these punks," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "Beat them up if you don't like it. I'll break their limbs if they dare to resist." Yu Kai hesitated and looked at Hu Qingsong. Then, he shook his head and said with a dry smile, "Forget it. They're just good-for-nothing punks, so I don't feel like bickering with them anymore. But old Hu is right. I won't be blinded by lust if I encounter this kind of situation again in the future." Tan Xiu nodded with a smile. He then looked at the crowd and said, "You heard it. Do you still want money?" "No, it's all our fault. No. How can we dare to ask for money? We'll leave right away." More than a dozen punks, who had been beaten miserably, suddenly struggled to get up from the ground and ran away while talking. The red-haired youth also ran more than 10 meters away. Just when he thought that Tan Xiu and the others couldn't catch up with him, he stopped and turned around, shouting, "Just you wait. I won't be a gentleman if I don't take revenge for this. I'll make you pay for it sooner or later." Mo's expression changed and he immediately wanted to chase after him. Tan Xiu reached out to stop him and smilingly said, "You're just a kid. After suffering a loss, you'll say some fierce words to save your face, thinking that you can save a lot of face. Just tell him to scram and ignore them." Mo nodded. The two girls who were slapped by Tan Xiu did not run away like the other young punks, nor did they show any anger. Strangely, they looked surprised. After getting up, they stood 7 or 8 meters away from Tan Xiu as if they were looking at a rare animal. "You two are still young, yet you don't learn good things. You'll only become the vermin of society in the future. Scram. Think about it later and don't go further down the wrong path." Tan Xiu reprimanded the two girls and then pulled Hu Qingsong and Yu Kai away. On the beach, the two girls stared at Tan Xiu's back. Suddenly, one of them shouted, "What's your name, handsome? Do you have a girlfriend or not?" Unfortunately, she didn't get the answer she wanted. They didn't leave until the back of Tan Xiu and the others disappeared on the road in the distance. Yeah, this is the real handsome. I've thought it through. I'll go back and immediately inform that red-haired guy. I'll firmly draw a line with him in the future. I'm going to embark on a journey to find love. I'm going to pursue that handsome guy. The slightly taller girl clenched her small fist and solemnly vowed. The girl called Yaya shouted, I want to go with him, too. Let's have a fair competition. Whoever can make that handsome guy prostrate himself under her skirt will be his. Deal. Afterward, the two girls scattered their cheerful laughter on the beach and quickly walked toward the two luxury supercars in the parking lot in the distance. On the side of the road in the distance, Chen Anhu watched as the group of people came back. His eyes glanced at Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong, who were badly beaten, and then landed on Tang Xiu. He strode forward and said with a bit of dissatisfaction, Tang Xiu, your action just now was too rash. You directly opened the door and rushed out at a speed of about 100 kilometers per hour. What if you got injured? I'm fine, Uncle Chen, Tang Xiu said with a smile. I just saw two brothers being bullied, so I couldn't help but rush over. Yu Kai, old Hu, this is Uncle Chen, the big boss of Macau's Ding Feng Group. Hello, Uncle Chen. I'm Yu Kai, said Yu Kai honestly. Hello, Uncle Chen. I'm Hu Qingsong, said Hu Qingsong. Chen Anhu nodded. He could naturally see that Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong were just ordinary people and shouldn't have any martial arts background. However, although their clothes were not branded, they were not children from poor families. Hello. Chen Anhu nodded and smilingly said, Did you have a conflict with others? Do you want me to send some people to help you teach those brats a lesson? Thanks for your kindness, Uncle Chen. Hu Qingsong shook his head. Big Bro Tang has just brought some people to beat those guys up, so our anger has been vented. That's good. Just look for me if you need anything in the future, said Chen Anhu with a smile. Tang Xiu patted their shoulders and smilingly said, You came to Macau for a vacation, so have a good time and have some fun. However, you're injured these 2 days, so you'd better behave yourself. Do you want to visit Uncle Chen's place with me? Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong exchanged glances. Hu Qingsong immediately shook his head and said, We won't disturb you, Uncle Chen. We'll pay you a visit after our injuries are almost healed. Big Bro Tang, what's your next plan? Do you want to take some time to have some fun with us? Nah, I'm not going to have fun with you. Tang Xiu shook his head. I'll stay in Macau for a day tomorrow and then go to country tea the day after tomorrow. That's right. If those people find trouble with you again after I leave, contact Uncle Chen directly. He'll help you solve the problem. All right. No problem. The two nodded. Tangxia District, Gongzhou Garden, Villa A058. As a row of SUVs parked outside the villa, Tang Yunda, who had been waiting for a long time, hurried out and asked with concern, How is it? Have you solved the problem with the Zhangs? Chen Anhu nodded with satisfaction and exclaimed in admiration, Big Brother Yunda, I finally understand what you've said before. Asking Tang Xiu for help is the right thing to do, and it's the right thing to do. I, Chen Anhu, have only admired a few people in my life, but now I have to add Tang Xiu to the list. Tang Yunda couldn't help laughing and said, What did he do? Is he worth such a high evaluation from you? You don't know. Chen Anhu sighed. Not only does Tang Xiu have so many powerful subordinates, but he also has amazing martial prowess. It's said that a strong dragon can't suppress a local snake, but today I saw a big play. A strong dragon suppressed a local snake to the point that it can't even lift its head. Not only has our problem been solved, but we also got great benefits. Great benefits? Asked Tang Yunda with a strange expression. What great benefits? Well, I'll let Tang Xiu tell you about it, said Chen Anhu with a smile. I'm sure you'll be overjoyed after hearing it. Let's go inside and talk. Tang Yunda looked at Tang Xiu with satisfaction. He nodded with a smile and took the lead to enter the villa. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.